get this before I start speaking here.
Hello there. Welcome to Under Two Capes, the premier podcast on the Comics League Network. Today we are talking Geoff Johns. So today, to talk Geoff Johns, I grabbed the two biggest Geoff Johns heads I could. I got Robert Willing. What's up, dude?
Not much.
And finally, making her long-anticipated debut on Comics League is Tristen from Nerdette's Newstand. What's up?
Thank you for having me. I've been trying. I'm sorry. And you know what's so great about it is you're always like, I'm like, hey, you want to stream, in 2 hours? And you're like, yeah, I'm down. I'm like, you have to schedule me 3 weeks at a time. Yeah, so I apologize. I owe you, and I apologize.
It's all good. So yeah, Geoff Johns.
My favorite writer.
Dude, I agree with you on that one because, oh my gosh. And one of the things that I think, I'm going to start off, that I love about Geoff Johns.
You might want to fix that.
Yeah, I'll fix that, yeah. In my defense, I make these late at night, so that's why.
Yeah, Geoff Johns. Who's Geoff Johns?
Yeah. So, my first comic was actually a Geoff Johns comic. It was Justice League Trinity War, written by Geoff Johns.
That was your first?
Yeah, which I'm like, oh, okay. Let me put it this way. I enjoyed it for what it was.
I didn't mind Trinity War. I did not mind Trinity War, but for me, I've been doing. Do you mind if I explain my comic history?
Actually, yeah, because normally what happens when I have a new guest is that I ask my guest to tell me how they got into comics. So we might as well just start with that. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, I got into comics. Well, by my grandmother. Let me rephrase it. I had a great uncle who owned a comic book store. He gave a bunch on to my grandma on my mom's side. And a bunch of those issues included issues from the deaths in the family or funeral for a friend of Superman. And I read through those, and it always got my attention. And eventually I got the trades for the Death, Return, and the Death, World Without, and Return of Superman trilogy. After that, I started reading them, but I didn't buy comics regularly. I was more relying on what was in trades. I would still go to Barnes & Noble or Borders back when they were around. Oh, boy. And I would just read the trades that were up there, and I would buy the occasional ones here and there. But I was at the mercy of my parents buying it for me. It wasn't until I went to college that I was able to go to a comic book store within walking distance, go up there, get the books. You want to know the funny thing is, when I got my Superman those trades, it turned out it's the comic book. It's the chain Comic City, the chain that I still go to this day.
Oh wow, that's great.
Different location, but when I started doing it regularly, it was right about the time leading up to Infinite Crisis. I was still a collector, wait for trades and hardcovers guy until Infinite Crisis came about. Why? Because I knew it was a sequel to Crisis, and Crisis was another trade I got, and that was one of my first books. But that's the reason why I love the multiverse so much. I love these Crisis events. It's because Crisis was one of the first trades I got, and it's also why the female Dr. Light is one of my favorite characters. And because of that, I started getting the trades. But then it was 52. Again, Geoff Johns on both of these. You're noticing. That really got me because I was able to go to the comic book store, weekly. And after that, I'm like, I'm just going to buy this. No, wait, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy that. It was my gateway into it. And then after that, I've been buying them ever since. I've been doing more weekly. I have more individual issues than I do trades these days.
Yeah, I've had that. You go to your LCS and you're like, I want this. No, but I also want this. But I also want this. Then the bill starts to add up, and I'm like,
oh, don't get me started. And down to the point where I used to buy them all within 1 week, but now I'm like, okay, which ones do I really want? And the rest I'll buy when I get my next paycheck.
Mm-hmm, exactly. What about you, Tristen?
When I was doing trades, I was just to say, I got these.
Yeah.
Among others.
Did you just kind of explain how Geoff Johns was your gateway drug?
My gateway into doing it on a more regular basis.
I get it.
That wasn't my start.
Most people have that similar story when it comes to Geoff Johns, I would argue.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I didn't realize that Robert didn't get into comics till the 2000s, and
hardcore into it.
Yeah, yes. I started reading when I was young. Death in the Family is what got me, which is not good for like an 8-year-old. But you know what? I still loved it. And then Under the Red Hood, and that's where my obsession with Red Hood came in. And honestly, like, Batman was so good to me when I was young, and that sounds weird, but it was that idea of being strong and stoic and being able to be something that wasn't yourself, that was better than yourself. And I think ever since I was, and I love Elseworlds too, I know Robert explained that, but I think ever since then, I have become a person that looks to escapism for that. Mm-hmm. Not only, there's something great about just being able to escape into a book. Yeah. And I love novels too, but comics are my true love. But escaping into something, just forgetting for a few minutes what's going on in the world and being able to escape in that world, and that's why. And DC Universe is superior to all other comic universes.
Yes. Heck, yes. You come on this channel, no matter what your opinions of the Snyderverse are, the minute you say DC's better with Marvel, you're redeemed.
Right. And Marvel's, I've tried, and I've explained this before. I have tried. And besides like She-Hulk and Moon Knight, Moon Knight is basically Batman just unhinged, I can't get into it. I really can't.
Here's how I look at it with me and Marvel. DC is where I have my home in, but Marvel's where I have a summer home in. Would I go?
There you go.
That's a good point. With me, it's more like I was always a fan of Greek myth, and DC was more of the gods amongst men like idea. So that's just where I just happen to gravitate. Plus, my first exposure to DC, like my very first, was the Justice League Unlimited cartoon. So it's like, yeah, you kind of have to be a massive DC fan after that little exposure there.
For sure.
Yeah, as I was showing, I got this. This was back. This is one of the first editions.
Oh, that's awesome.
Unfortunately, though, that also means very thin paper.
Yes.
The newsprint, but Jim Starlin.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
I've met so many creators, some of which aren't with us anymore.
So the way I figured we do this is we go through certain things that Geoff Johns is particularly known for, obviously starting with Green Lantern, because you can't talk about Geoff Johns without talking Green Lantern, really. And what I love about it, what I think is the best part about Geoff Johns' Green Lantern, is that he basically made DC's version of Star Wars.
Yes. And it's what I love
best
about Geoff Johns. It's what I love best about Geoff Johns is he's one of those creators that he's not the first. Definitely not the first. But he's definitely one of the best who's able to take a lot of continuity and expand on it.
I have all three of these.
Oh, well, I have them all. I have them all both in hardcover and individual issues. So,
wait, those things are freaking heavy.
True.
I've never heard anyone explain it that is their version of Star Wars. Maybe I don't know enough about Star Wars. Maybe I just don't know enough about Star Wars, and I'm not a Star Wars fan. But I would say it's superior.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But the thing about it, the reason why I take it is that he took this concept of like, okay, a dude in a green suit with a green ring that's powered by willpower, and significantly expanded it with like all the different cores. You had an actual Star War, actually two of them, if you count the National Core War. But he turned it into a space opera pretty much.
But I will say this: if there's one, I will also give some criticism about Geoff Johns too. And if there's one criticism I will give him is, how many times does he start up a plot point and eventually drop it because he focuses on something else? He did that, unfortunately, quite a lot. Hector Hammond, where did that go?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but he revamped, what was it, Black Hand?
Well, yes. That
was amazing work.
Okay, my one criticism of Geoff Johns with Blackest Night is that he missed up a golden opportunity. Why didn't Superman get a Blue Lantern ring?
Because he needed him more as a Black Lantern.
No, I mean after that, because remember, Wonder Woman was a Black Lantern, but they overrode it.
But I think because Superman's death was more known than Wonder Woman's death.
I know, it's kind of a missed opportunity because you have the guy that symbolizes hope, and you don't give him the hope ring.
No, instead they give it to Barry.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, you could have given Barry compassion, but
no, but now is what we know about compassion.
Yeah, but I'm like, when you had the dude that literally, that's what the S stands for. Yes, Sinestro Core War.
I also really like how he did, because I never understood, like, there was always jokes with the color yellow, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And I like how he actually kind of introduced that as a construct instead and was able to make it make sense. It's not just some weird, oh my God, it's yellow.
Yes.
And that's what, with Sinestro and everything. I think it was really well done.
Funny thing is, though, do you know John Byrne actually toyed with that idea before Geoff Johns during Superman Batman Generations? But that was, of course, because that was, of course, when they had to be Alan Scott's ring was actually a Green Lantern Corps ring. But they went with the idea wood didn't work. But then once the ring was given to Kyle, who was the second Green Lantern in this version, it was then yellow, but it was the same ring. And then it was later revealed, it's all just in your mind. And it all depends on how much willpower you had to overthrow it, to beat it. So it's like, and I don't think Geoff took it from there. I'm just saying it's something very similar. But I gotta say, what I love best about what Geoff Johns did was Green Lantern Rebirth, and it's something that even Brad Meltzer said. You could have just killed off Kyle and made it be all about bringing hell. But instead, he brought back the entire Corps, but still also had to be when Sinestro's taunting Kyle, calling him a gutter rat or whatever, and then it's like, no, you will respect him. He held the torch when no one else could.
And it was just him. He's like, and I love that interaction with Hal and Kyle, because Kyle's like, I don't know if I could do this. I'm not you. And then Hal goes, wait a second.
You just went toe to toe with Sinestro.
Yes,
and you've been policing the galaxy by yourself.
Yep.
I think you're doing a pretty good job. But my favorite Green Lantern moment is actually in the Green Lantern Rebirth, is when the 5 lanterns are facing off against Parallax, and then you have Geoff Johns describing each how each concept is different.
Yes.
Combine that with Ethan Van Sciver's art, like detailingly drawing how John's an architect.
And you got to give Moose his props for the coloring.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Beautiful
but
stuff.
It's like because
right here. John's constructs are built from the inside out. You look close. You can see every nut and bolt that makes it work. Nothing he creates is hollow, with or without the ring. Gardner's ring is like a leaky water faucet. Sparks always fly, even when he's just standing still. Kyle is like a never satisfied artist.
Yeah, it's just so cool, because what he's doing there is he's telling you, here's how each of the core members are unique and different. Instead of them all being like clones of Hal Jordan.
Yeah. And it's really unique in the way that it also involves, like with Kyle, his personality, the artistry of it all.
You're gonna hate this, Tris.
Oh yeah, when he punches Batman.
One punch.
And Gardner's like, I've been waiting my entire life for this. But my other favorite part is in Sinestro Core War, because there was this fantastic moment when the Sinestro Core War is invading Coast City, and the people won't leave, to the point where they just shining green lights. At the end of it, Coast City becomes known as the City Without Fear. And then you have the Lost Lanterns that go, okay, you stood with us, we're going to stand with you. And I'm like, yes!
Mm-hmm.
This is so badass!
There's not a lot of authors, and I love my grounded superheroes, but there's not a lot of authors that can get me on a cosmic level like Geoff Johns can.
Oh my gosh.
Look what guy did Batman.
Yeah, where he moods Batman.
But he's like, but I love how Batman's like, tell Guy he needs to shave. He just stays still, but like, tell him he needs to shave. It's just like, he's not even letting it affect him.
And the funny thing is I can't, like, I've never been into Star Wars. A lot of people that read comics are. I don't get into it. I don't feel like that. Maybe it's just me, but I'm not into that type of story. There is very few authors that can get me into a cosmic level story. Geoff Johns is absolutely one of them. And then when you pair it, for all of his faults, with Ethan Van Sciver, the art is phenomenal. Like, you can't even argue with that. No, yeah. And then
you can't deny who has the credit for everything.
Well, in the scale, we haven't seen something all. I mean, I guess you could say metal and death metal, but even so, like how much it took over of the line. What a big event it was. Nobody else could have orchestrated that but Geoff Johns, and he's done it with other stuff too. We'll talk about when we get to those ones, but there's no denying that really at this point DC could use him back. Like, absolutely.
For the love of God, put him in charge of the comics again, because that was a golden age.
I will say this though, we gotta thank Geoff Johns also for people like Joshua Williamson, who was under him.
He's
There's
doing
a
well.
reason why it's it's so amazing, because he's pretty much the current Geoff Johns of this current grouping.
I would say so. Now, speaking of Green Lantern, there's one other point that of Geoff Johns that I love. I just did a video about her. I talk about her every time I talk about Green Lantern. Jessica Cruz, baby.
My
what he did with
Lantern.
that, a unique idea, an agoraphobic Green Lantern. That is so cool. And she has to overcome fear all the time. I'm like, oh, that is really cool.
I will say one of his fumbles, I hate to say it, Jessica, he had a plan. She had a point to build up. Simon Baz, on the other hand, was a plot device.
Yeah,
he was a plot device that was just meant to have where the ring could be while Sinestro and Hal are stuck in limbo or wherever. It's like, unfortunately, he never established Simon that much.
Yeah, that was until Rebirth, where at least he and Jessica were on the Justice League, and
that wasn't Geoff then, though.
I know. I'm just saying some writers tried to, but so. When you get to, and I agree with you, Tristen, there's rare that you have a writer that has this many hits and this many things they are known for defining. Like writers
Teen Titans.
Teen Titans, Justice League. Writers wish they had this many notches under their belt.
Now, do I think his Justice League is perfect compared to others? No. I think there are people who have done better Justice League types. I would say this. I think I would still prefer Grant Morrison's Justice League over Geoff's, but it's a close one. It's a close race.
He did some really dope stuff. Like one of my favorite moments in his Justice League run in the New 52 was when Batman and Green Lantern first meet, and Batman and Green Lantern's like, "You're not just some dude in a bat suit, are you?"
You are, aren't you?
and then Batman just takes his ring and goes, "Hey, what's this do?" And the Green Lantern's like, "What?"
No, that was great. That was great. I will say that. But I go to say this, if there's one other flaw with him is he gets Superman. He understands Batman. He never got Wonder Woman. Never. No, look at how she was in Infinite Crisis. All this about being perfect. She never understood humanity. If the guy who's known for reading other books should know, she's understood humanity probably better than
a bridge.
It's true. Which, here's the thing, though. Most writers at DC don't understand Wonder Woman.
That's true. And that's an issue.
If you had read the books before Infinite Crisis, you had George Perez's run.
Oh,
John Byrne's run. John Byrne had her working at a frickin' fast food joint.
It's rare when you get writers that understand Wonder Woman, which is sad because she's a third member of the Trinity and like one of your pillars besides Harley Quinn. I got it. I know. But
it was coming if you didn't say it.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say it, so I figured I'd have to throw it in there. I've been on enough scenes with you. But it's just like, because Wonder Woman has always been like my third favorite superhero. My three are Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So it's really, I mean, Rucka had a pretty decent run, but it's like
Rucka's got one of my personal favorite Wonder Woman stuff.
Oh yeah, but
well,
it's
besides Perez.
Yeah, but it's very rare when you get it's significantly rare when you get like a really good Wonder Woman run for some reason.
Oh no, and I agree with that. But I'm saying though, when he would have it be like, you could stop by trying to be so damn perfect and all that, and then a whole point about like, he didn't write the Who is Wonder Woman that was on Heinberg. He had an involvement with the plot in that one, and the fact that you're like, so she went to go understand humanity by becoming a secret agent, and she gave up being Wonder Woman to Donna Troy with no intent on coming back.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Xavier, I know why you're not a fan of Superman and Wonder Woman, because every time you on a stream with me, you talk about the Super Son. So I know what you're doing there.
I'm sorry, I never cared. I did not care for the Super Wonder Woman relationship.
Me either.
You're allowed to. You're allowed to be wrong. That's fine.
All right, everybody's wrong once in a
Now, I
while,
will
even
say-
me.
Yeah, even the host of the show could be wrong.
Infinite Crisis, my favorite Crisis, actually, because what I love, he used Superboy Prime to critique
Yes.
current comic book fans and say, you guys are being too dark right now. What
The
happened
funny
to
thing
you
is, though,
guys?
he was ahead of the curve there when he was
Yeah.
doing
He
it.
made the
those fans-
toxic fan.
But at
Mhm.
the same time, when you see about those toxic fans were not as prevalent then compared to how they are now. Then they were more like you're probably people he met at cons or seen somewhere on social media, but they didn't have a big voice compared to now where they, I hate to say it, I see certain groups out there who are like, you guys are Superboy Prime, who, and let's be honest though, he did get a little mean spirited with Superboy Prime eventually, like when he had lose his power and live in his parents' basement.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
great, though. I love that.
Well, I will
because
say
it was
my
that.
favorite. The funny thing about that is that in the Blackest Night tie-in where he's reading the exact same comic book that he's in
Yes!
right now.
Yeah,
I'm like, that
oh,
is
yeah.
so Matrix.
He's like, oh no, they're bringing me into this.
He's like,
I love
oh no, I have to know how this ends. He runs to his comic book store.
It's the toxic fan done correctly. And
Oh yeah.
it proves that it can be done well. It proves that you can have that, like, kind of jab at some of the toxic fans and not go all Megan Fitzmartin about it.
Oh,
Yes.
hey, don't get me started on that.
Yes. Oh
I'm
my
just
god.
saying,
I will
it's a
say,
good
though, I am-
example.
I am grateful Superboy Prime got a happy ending though.
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
Yes.
I'll
Yeah,
give you that one.
absolutely.
And now and that's why I feel Scott Snyder. Oh, I remember that video.
Mhm.
That's awesome. I did not know that. That makes my day.
Yeah, I remember that video in particular.
That's awesome. I
Oh,
had no
speaking of which-
idea.
I'm trying to think. Where was what made me subscribe to your channel? Because it wasn't the Snyderverse stuff. I think it was just you talk about how much you love DC. So I was like, subscribe.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, well, for me, I was there from the beginning, so
Yeah, there you go.
So was I, oddly enough.
well, obviously. But,
So
but yeah, it's Superman stuff here with
Mhm.
oh, what was his name? Oh geez, what was the guy's name?
was it Perez for Superman?
No. I'm talking about the new hero that was from Earth, Ulysses.
Oh, and by the way, Classy Ulysses is a man up to my own heart. Dark Side War.
I love Darkseid
Oh
War.
my
I-
god! Say what you want about his Justice League run. That story was freaking fantastic.
Oh yes, that was a great way to wrap it up. And I've always been a sucker for the Anti-Monitor. Always
Oh my!
have been.
Darkseid versus the Anti-Monitor and the Justice League becoming gods. I'm like,
Now,
Oh.
the is why didn't Geoff Johns even? He didn't even touch Hal being the god. That was Tom King who started
Yeah.
and ended it.
and that was
Why
actually a
did-
good story though.
Oh, it was a great story. But you know, out of all of them, that was the only one Jeff never touched.
Yeah, that's true.
Wait, which Tom King story was that?
Hold on, I got it.
It was the one, yeah, it was the one where Hal became the god of light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, the timeline for the event were really confusing in terms of the tie-ins, but they were pretty cool individual stories. But what I just loved, yeah, exactly, there it is. What I
Okay.
love about Darkseid War is that you have the Justice League becoming gods, and then they have to team up with the crime syndicate. So it's basically Justice League squared, and then it's like, and then it's like the Anti-Monitor just murders like everyone, and then like you have Darkseid's daughter who's like a badass and like breaks Wonder Woman's bracelets.
Oh my gosh, Grail, right?
Yeah, and Robert, I think you're muted, but yeah, I'm like, dude, again,
Sorry.
it's okay. Geoff Johns excels, I think, at making badass, like newer characters and making you instantly fall in love with them. Like
Oh,
Jessica
yeah.
Cruz. Hell, Jessica Cruz, she had a huge part in this storyline where she sacrificed herself to save Barry, and then she becomes a Green Lantern.
Again,
The whole idea of Jessica, and I know you talked about her a little bit, but the whole idea of her being able to succumb to fear at any moment, at that anxiety any moment,
Yeah.
but her will being so strong to me is one of the most unique Green Lantern ideas that we've had so far. It's not just, Hal Jordan he's a kind of a little bit of a hothead and, he's strong and he's strong-willed. No. This is totally different. And
Yeah.
I think just because that alone, just because it is relatable on a human level, is what made Jessica so instantly popular. Like, you get a lot of these more diverse introductions that sometimes fall flat. Jessica was the perfect storm of anxiety and will all bottled into one. I love her.
And if you want to talk about creating a new character to basically diversify the cast, she was like that. I always hold her up as she is the example of what to do if you want to introduce more diverse characters, like 100%.
But again, then you have Simon Baz, his one fumble.
Yeah, that's true.
Simon is
it wasn't awful. I mean,
but you ever be his very first time we're introduced to him, he's mistaken for a terrorist.
Yeah,
that's not exactly the best look. But what I love, this is not Geoff Johns, but I have to mention this in the rebirth story that she had with Baz, the first arc. She doubts her ability to become a Green Lantern because she hasn't formed a construct yet. Then when she does, her willpower spikes and she like spanks Atrocitus. I'm like, yes!
But that's also the same story where you have Simon, because he has such incredible will, is able to, without a Blue Lantern, purify Bleeze.
Yeah.
Again, that's where, unfortunately, because he didn't build up Simon that much, you had to have other writers make him such a Gary Stu.
That's great.
But Johns the one that wrote Bleeze's backstory?
Yeah, yes. He's the one who came up with Bleeze's backstory.
That's unfortunate.
How about the way he, in his Green Lantern run, he started seeding all the different Lantern Corps, where with the Sinestro Corps, it was just a ring that showed up and go, you have the ability to overcome fear. And I love where, to cosplay fear. And I love where it shows up in Batman, and Batman's like, the hell just happened?
Yes, I love that. And it's just like, because unfortunately, because Hal let him wear the Green Lantern ring beforehand, is why he didn't take over him, because he was tainted by it.
Yeah, and and then you get like Rage of the Red Lanterns, where all of a sudden you have the Lanterns of Rage that are directly in response to the Guardians being a-holes. So I'm like, oh yes, which the Guardians are always a-holes. Let's face it. That's the thing. That's just the thing. Except for Ganthet, because Ganthet's my boy.
And
he's kind of an a-hole though.
And Saeed.
Oh, and Saeed. And by the way, how about an artist to be paired with Geoff Johns than Jason Fabok? Oh my god.
Jason Fabok, Ivan Rice,
Ethan Van Sciver. But it's like it's actually, speaking of Geoff Johns and Jason Fabok, what'd you guys think of Three Jokers?
That would be one of his fumbles, I'd hate to say, because in the end, what did it amount to by the end?
Yeah, because we don't even know if it's canon yet. Even the encyclopedia says if Batman may or may not have fought Three Jokers.
Yeah, but not only that, though, but like I said, by the end, everything is back to where it started.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you have nothing that leaves an impact at the end. So what was the point of the story?
I think the issue with me was we waited so long.
Yeah, this
was hype. You know, they announced it. It was hype. Like, it was something that we had looked forward to after. Well, it was at the end of Darkseid War, and it was like, okay, first issue's okay. All right, we're into this, and then you get some weird Babs and Jason stuff, which I was
always like, that's cringe.
Yeah, it was cringe, and then. Even with all the other stuff, I like the idea of the Three Jokers. I do. I think it's a good concept. But by the end, there was no conclusion, no real progression in that story.
None, except for we find out a bit more about, he just starts to reveal more about the Joker, which he would then do again in Flashpoint Beyond by giving us his full name.
Yeah,
we did get his name. What did you guys think of that in Flashpoint?
I'm like, okay, that's
I think here's what I think. I think with Joker and Watchmen, he's trying to do for these concepts and characters what Ed Brubaker did with Bucky, in that no one's ever tried to expand them. No one's tried to build up on them. No one's trying to, like in the case of Joker, reveal more about him beyond just, oh, he's more insane or whatever. I think he's feeling like that's untapped potential for him to put his name on.
I don't even remember what it was at this point. I just read that.
Jack White.
Okay, but the one thing exactly. The one thing that's so oddly cool about the Joker is He's going to tell you a different origin every time, depending
it's like
on
in
how
the
he
Dark
wants to.
Knight with Heath. His story changes every time he tells it.
Yeah.
And it's unnecessary. It's not like it's this terrible thing, but it just felt unnecessary, right?
I will say,
we didn't need it.
The story I think he handled better was Doomsday Clock.
Yes.
Oh my God, I love
Despite how
Doomsday
delayed
Clock.
that thing was.
I just did a video over that recently.
Because yeah, I saw that. I'm like, dude, if you want a writer who understands Superman, just read that book. He restores the humanity in Dr. Manhattan.
Dr. Manhattan has no humanity. A writer has to be so freaking good in order to restore that humanity. And he accomplishes it by the end. And he lands...
Sorry.
Stop talking. I'm talking. No, and then another thing I want to talk about with Doomsday Clock is Mime and Marionette. These were characters that were brand new, and I almost instantly fell in love with. Just like with Jessica.
That's what Geoff Johns does.
Oop.
Yep. And what I love about it is that Geoff Johns basically redid the multiverse and said, okay, if you like the new 52, it's on Earth 52, meaning that it's not necessarily wiped from canon. It's just on its own Earth. So if you like that, those stories are still air quote canon. So I'm like, okay, thank you for at least showing me that amount of respect to say the era that I like, that I got into comics. Okay, I can still read that and say, okay, it happened somewhere.
Right, exactly. Instead of taking something that you love and making you feel like the story never existed. I hate that more than anything.
Yes, I agree.
It's disrespectful to the fan base, I think.
I don't mind some small retcons here and there, but unless you're going to do a Crisis or something, like, I don't know. I don't see the issue with it. But Doomsday Clock, and I know a lot of people have an issue with Johns playing around, in Alan Moore's toy box.
All because Alan Moore made that comment saying it's comparable to a raccoon going through trash.
Alan Moore's a grumpy old man. He's going to say Alan Moore type things.
He's been this way ever since Geoff Johns tapped his Black as Night prophecy. The Alan Moore fans have always been hating him.
Which, let's face it, but here's what those fans have to realize: until the courts say otherwise, those characters and concepts are owned by DC Comics. They can do whatever the hell they want with it.
Yeah,
exactly.
They were what's it called, for hire work, right?
Yeah, and to expect that he's not going to basically. Here's what happened. It was the original agreement was once it went out of print, it would be given to Alan. This was a standard thing at the time. This was standard at that point, but no one, not even DC. It's not like DC knew, this is going to be a big hit. They probably thought we'll just get it over and done with and give him the rights. He can do what he wants. But then it was then printed. It was becoming required reading for colleges. You were never going to stop printing it once you reached that mark.
No, and it's an amazing story. I'm not saying that, but it's so amazing that I want more with those characters. Yes. And in Doomsday Clock, seeing the comedian return was one of those oh shit moments where it was like, this is so cool seeing Blake back.
The thing I loved about Doomsday Clock is that throughout the entire book, they're sort of hyping up a fight between Dr. Manhattan and Superman. But the fight actually is, and this is 100% what Superman would actually do, he talks him down. He says, okay, you have a choice now. And I'm like, that is 100% what Superman would do. He wouldn't necessarily fight the guy if he recognized that it wasn't necessarily a threat. He would say, listen, dude, you have a choice. You can fix this. And then I just love that ultimately what Geoff Johns said in that book, ultimately, the purpose of that book is to say that the DC, all the DC worlds pretty much revolve around Superman.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Because that's what I've always said. Everyone, that's why I say in reality, yes, Superman is the leader of the Justice League because all the other heroes take their cues from him on how to be a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love
look up to him.
And I love all those different possible reboots of him, like saying the Kents actually have a baby daughter, then they don't have a kid next time, and then they actually have a young son and all that when they're finding him. I just love little details like that. How it's always going to change. It's always going to be reworked. Now, I would say this, though. Comedian was pointless in that.
No, take it
No, he
back. I
wasn't.
love Comedian.
Okay. But aside from him chasing after Mime and Marionette, shooting Ozzy at the end, shooting off Typhoon during the meeting and all that, what did he really accomplish compared to everyone else?
Well, yeah, but that was his point in the story.
And I only have one criticism for Doomsday Clock. One is that I would have liked more of a lead up in the other books to like that special Superman thesis about all the superheroes originating in America before it's just flopped in there.
I think that was originally the plan, and then they started focusing more on death metal.
Yeah, I'm like, you could have given me that a little bit more because it's kind of jarring to see. Wait, they don't like Superman anymore? What?
Now, I do like it, though. Oh, actually, you know what my favorite moment was in the whole book as far as the backup stuff was? Let me find it.
Reggie. Can't forget about Reggie.
Oh, well, I love Reggie. I did love Reggie, but that's not
He's
what
amazing.
I was looking for. Oh, where is it? Where is it? Oh, come on. I'm trying to find it. It's from one of the backup stuff. But okay, I got it. When we see this, Trust Shattered, Daily Star, Metropolis Time, Metahuman Moscow Massacre.
Yeah.
Metropolis Today, Superman takes the wrong side.
Where it includes all those
what
little
does the
points.
planet say? Superman missing, and they actually give him the benefit of the doubt. They're not in this for the cancel culture headlines.
Now, speaking of Superman and the Daily Planet, how about Geoff Johns' story, Superman's Secret Origin?
Yes!
That he did with Gary Frank. That was basically
one of the best Lois Lanes. I hate to say, though, there's only one other time Lois was ever written better, and that was Marv Wolfman during Man and Superman.
Yeah, but dude, just though, first off, he straight up homages the Christopher Reeves movie where he saves Lois and then he just goes awkwardly, "Hi."
Hi, I know.
Like, yes, hi. That is Superman, baby.
Well, to be fair, Mark Waid did something similar, not when he first met, but at one point when he saved her and catched her, he went, "Hi," similar thing. Yeah. Like I said, if there's one other time that was Geoff Johns ever got me annoyed, and Tristen, you were there for this one, was during Last Son, when he seemed to remove Clark's notion, the notion that Clark was actually a well-beloved reporter, just so he can make him more like how he was on the Donner stuff of being this, like, you have Perry saying, like, why did Lois marry him? And all. It's like, dude, you were there with Lois. You're the one, instead of her own father, who brought her down the aisle. You looked at Clark like a son. Yeah. Why are you acting like the Donner movie, Perry, all of a sudden being all like, what does she see in her? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, that was the only time I didn't care, is when he backpedaled on a lot of the Clark's development as a reporter just because Donner was on there with him.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was restored in canon with Superman Reborn.
Yes.
And again, what if there was one writer, here's the thing about Geoff Johns that I 100% like, that I 100% like think is valid, is when it's something I've mentioned before. He's one of the writers where, okay, short of Wonder Woman, he could write pretty much any character and it could still be at least a halfway decent story. Yes, Power Girl.
I love it. Is that Amanda Conner?
Yep, that's Amanda Conner. Now,
yep.
I will say this, I am a little torn on the notion of his explanation of the boob hole being like, oh, I always wanted to have my own logo there. When you look back,
it makes her feel stronger. That's
not what it was. Originally used to be, hey, I don't care how people look at me. If they want to be pervs and just look at my chest, that's on them. That's how she used to be, not.
Oh, by the way, PK has a good point. It was Bendis who likely caused those delays in Doomsday Clock because he kept rewriting Superman into what
I don't think so.
It was.
I don't buy that. I do not buy that. I think it was more of a case where, because remember this, when Geoff Johns started, they were still trying to get Hickman on Legion.
Can you mention Jonathan Hickman on Legion or Justice League? Dude.
That would have been incredible. But like I said, that was during that point. It's unfortunate because of the delays that I think gave Bendis the opening for them to do it. And then Geoff Johns had to be like, hey, I think Dan, the deal was probably like, Geoff, you've been a bit delayed. You're going to have to acknowledge some of this stuff. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, exactly.
What I always didn't understand about Doomsday Clock, and I think I actually asked you this on stream the other day, Robert. Mime and Marionette had a son.
Yes.
Initially. And then
they had a daughter.
A daughter. Okay.
They conceived of the daughter during that, right before the comedian busted in on them and everything. And then Amanda had to say, "You're pregnant again."
I love that. And I love the way that I just think those characters, I was so excited. And it leads kind of, from that story when Flashpoint Beyond, where we actually got to see them return. I think they are two characters that, again, could, like Jessica, could hold their own book. Now, it would be hard, right? Because we don't have a whole lot of lore with them. But that's what you take the opportunity to expand upon them.
Yes.
And then you also, the kid at the end, right? Like,
Nostalgia.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, which he set up in Doomsday Clock.
Now, one thing, before we get to Booster Cole and Geiger, I want to talk about Flashpoint, the original Flashpoint.
I was going to mention it if you didn't, so go for it.
Oh my, because, okay, so it was a story not meant to originally not meant to reboot the entire line. So,
I'm sorry, that was it.
what I dig about Flashpoint is you can think of it as like a bunch of what if stories, except rolled into like one narrative. Like, what if Thomas Wayne?
It was the House of M. It was their House of M.
Yeah, essentially it was that. It was House of M. But it's cool because I like the idea that Barry's the only one that knows. Wait a second, this is not supposed to work.
But he's starting to lose it though.
He's starting to lose it.
He was on a ticking clock.
And
I love how he shows Barry being so fucking strong and like such a hero move to when he gets lightning zapped. Yeah. He goes right back at it. Like, that is such a heroic move.
And Thomas Wayne is like, you are nuts.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, I will say this. I have to ask you this. How much of do you think Geoff Johns really wrote with Flashpoint Beyond? So there was 3 other writers, and it was made very clear the stuff with Harvey Dent's son was definitely from Tim Sheridan. So I personally think...
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. That was, according to interviews, Tim Sheridan was the one who was pushing about Dent's kid being a main focal point and being the new Robin. But from my guess is, I think it was more the stuff that dealt with Bruce and Rip Hunter, which I gotta say, I am not a fan of how he's reworked Rip Hunter again. I prefer Rip how he was in Booster Gold, not this hardcore, I'm going to wipe your history because of all this.
I think in Flashpoint Beyond, I love the story. I think it's great. I don't think it's as good as Flashpoint was. Because the stuff with like Superman and the Amazons and
it went
the
nowhere.
Atlanteans. Yeah, and we didn't get to see any of that. We seen a little bit on like the television, like the.
I think it was
bubbles,
because I think the whole point was to give Thomas a reason to leave. I think that was the point. It was to make it clear the world's gotten worse. So why should he stick around?
I love that he uses Bruce. Like, Bruce has always been a driving factor, but it's so strong in the second one. And then the return of Martha, who, again, is another freaking character that Geoff Johns did and made. Nobody was going, oh my God, they gender swapped her. They were like, fucking Martha Cat. Wait, were they? I don't know.
No,
I guess
that was Ed, and that was Brian Azzarello who did it.
Oh, that was in the other stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah. Brian Azzarello is the one who did it. All Jeff and the others did was pick it up.
Oh, regardless, he did a great job with it. I love the way that plays out and how I think the Flashpoint universe could be expanded upon even more. I mean, I would love to see more.
Its own Earth.
Yes.
Because the idea of what like the Atlanteans being at war with the Amazons because Wonder Woman cut off Mara's head, I'm like, yes.
Who doesn't want to see that? I do.
Yeah. Now,
I want a movie. I wish the Flash movie was straight up a 1-for-1 Flashpoint.
Perfect way to kill off Amber Heard.
Exactly. You can have
Gal do it. Have Gal do it.
You can have the lovable Gal Gadot just lop off her head.
Everyone would cheer.
Everyone would cheer.
I will say this: one other thing with Geoff Johns and Kurt Busiek, one of the best Superman stories ever written.
Yeah.
This is one of my go-to. I would give this to someone to understand Superman.
By the way, fun fact about Geoff Johns, by the way, he's a playable character in the Lego Batman game. I recently unlocked him. He's
Geoff Johns
and Jim Lee.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Geoff Johns and Jim Lee, you can play as them. I'm watching. Which Geoff Johns, it makes sense because that game is pretty much a Green Lantern story, but also Jim Lee. I'm like, oh, this is, and Jim Lee throws pencils. I'm like,
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
It's so great. I'm like, I'm playing all the challenges. Then it says, okay, you unlock a new character, Geoff Johns. What the hell?
Hey, by the way, Tristan, remember us going over this?
Oh yeah, that's a great story.
This was such a great story. Again,
you just showed up and away, right?
Yes.
I don't, and I'm going to lose my nerd card a little bit here, but I've never read it.
I'm taking my nerd card back.
I
Finally got it back.
There were two other Geoff Johns books I want to talk about: Geiger and Junkyard Joe.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh.
And don't forget Blizzard in the anthology.
Yeah. What I love about it is like he's starting his own little superhero universe, but he does it in like a small way because he introduces Junkyard Joe in Geiger, and then he comes up with the Junkyard Joe book.
Unnamed, and then the unnamed. It's like and the funny thing is, he set up the unnamed in the very first issue with the news broadcast. If you actually pay attention to the news broadcast, you realize, oh my! And then you look at all what he come up with for the unnamed and everything. It's like, oh my God.
And then with Junkyard Joe, at least, he makes a Vietnam War story, but revolves it around sci-fi. And it's such an original concept. I'm like, okay, great. I wish more comics do that.
At least for the first issue. The second issue is in the present day, and it's more of a military thriller.
Yeah,
well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but what I'm saying is that what I love is how he essentially takes sci-fi but blends it really well in like stuff that actually happened.
Oh yeah. Oh, we got to remember something else. Let's not forget his collaborations. Peter Tomasi, Tony Bedard.
Wait, I want to say something about Junkyard Joe. I was talking when me and Bianca were doing a best writers kind of video. I was talking about, I think it was Image that did these soldier stories. It may have been AWA, I'm not sure. And I watched a review of it, and they were saying how, as a vet, it was a terrible story. It wasn't good. It didn't show vets in a positive light. If you look at Junkyard Joe,
oh yeah,
it is absolutely such good. I don't know what we would say, vet representation, but like it absolutely shows the brutality, especially in that first issue of war, the way the camaraderie between people. And then I don't know about the physical copy because I have digital, but at the end they have soldier stories and stuff at the end. And I think that's so cool because you don't see that often, and it's people that deserve a little. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
They deserve the recognition, and this is a perfect book to incorporate that. And in the second issue where he hugs, or wait, does he hug him? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, he hugs the comic creator.
Like that was so like this android absolutely showed more feeling than we've seen from a lot of stuff. And I thought that was
he didn't
freaking
hug him.
good.
He didn't hug him. He just took off his helmet in mourning.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was. I knew it was something like that, but that like little symbolism was so well done. And then in Geiger, I love Geiger.
Yeah.
What I love about Geiger is particularly Gary Frank's art. Whenever he draws the dude like as green, it seems like he's actually glowing.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, because this was one of the books that was like requested by my fans like repeatedly. So I was like, okay, I have to cover this. But and plus, it's a Geoff Johns book, so I'm like, okay, Geoff Johns and Scott Snyder. I'll read pretty much anything of theirs because I know I'm in for at least a good time. But so when I read this and I saw how Gary Frank rendered I call him Nuclear Man's like glow. Yeah. I'm like, oh, it's almost 3D.
Dr. Phosphorus. He's basically Dr. Phosphorus.
Yeah, it's essentially that.
I am so glad I bought the anthologies for the Blizzard story because I wasn't sure if it was going to be part of the Unnamed until the more recent books where they've made it very clear now it is.
See, I haven't read them yet. The only big gripe I had, and it's just kind of a selfish gripe with Geiger, is that at the end, when he takes the two kids, he just kind of leaves them. Like,
because he was going to blow up, though.
Yeah, he's not going to take him to his explosion.
I know, but I felt bad.
No, and you're supposed to feel bad, but it was also made clear, and you're the one who pointed out to me. I didn't realize it. The guy with the eye patch telling the story is the kid that they met earlier.
Yep.
And obviously that means they're going to meet up with him again because he said
again
Geiger didn't die. Geiger didn't die.
And the way he set up that city was so, it was so
Vegas.
out there.
Vegas,
cool.
baby. Vegas, baby. So, going back to actually DC, I want to talk about because I just recently started reading Geoff Johns' Flash run. Because
I have not. Unfortunately, I've not read his original Flash run. I've wanted to, but
because here's the thing with me, I'm trying to get more into like other characters beyond the DE Trinity and the Justice League that I don't read about. So I was like, okay, I'll check out Flash. I've never read like mainstream I've never actually read a main Flash ongoing, and I'm reading a storyline where Flash is caught in a mirror world where like the Justice League pretty much never formed. He didn't have his powers. Barry's still alive because remember this is post-crisis, and the rogues are pretty much the good guys, kind of like in Flashpoint. So I'm like, oh, this is actually really cool.
That's true. Right after you know that, I want to talk about Teen Titans for a bit.
Yeah, I absolutely. We'll go to that. But again, what I love, and it's Wally West Flash, which was like my Flash because I started on and again the Justice League cartoon, and I'm gonna say this right now on this stream. Damn you, Tom King, for what you did to Wally West. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I've been retconned.
Yes, I know.
I do not fully blame him that it wasn't all his idea. He just came up with the general idea, and then he was given a list of characters to draw from. So you cannot
still can't forgive him.
And by the way, Raymond has a perfect. Yeah, it would be the most epic. That's an Oscar-worthy moment right there.
That's right. That would be amazing.
Why would I be surprised if they've actually shot that already?
Or if all of a sudden we see Aquaman 2, and then Mara's played by Emilia Clarke. There you go.
People would go see it. That would make the money that they would need back for the budget if that was in the movie and it leaked. Like, people would go see it just for that moment. It would be great.
It's kind of like how most people saw Black Adam because Henry Cavill.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
I will say this. I also say this one about Geoff Johns' Flash run. It is to Mark Waid's one what Robert Vendetti's Green Lantern was to Geoff Johns' run.
That was a hell of a metaphor.
No, you get what I mean? As in, it was a perfect continuation of the prior creator. So Geoff did for Mark Waid what Vendetti would do for Johns on Green Lantern.
I will say my favorite moment in Vendetti's Green Lantern is when Hal is captured by the Sinestro Corps, and the Sinestro Corps member calls up Sinestro, and he goes, "Hey, dude, we captured our Green Lantern," and then Sinestro goes, "Okay, who is it?" And then he goes, "No, it's Hal Jordan. Kill him right now. He's about to destroy you."
Yes.
I'm like, yes, this is so. And then Hal just completely like obliterates them because he's freaking Hal Jordan. He's made of willpower at this point.
Yeah, by that point he was. I feel bad for Vendetti. How that was one of the downsides of Rebirth. He couldn't keep Parallax Hal around.
Yeah,
I felt bad for him. I'm like, you set it up, you did a great story, and then you're told he's gone.
Mm-hmm. Now let's go to Teen Titans. Now,
speak of which.
You know it's a good writer when we're all like, ooh, don't forget this book. Ooh, don't forget this book.
Yeah, his Teen Titans one I love.
Because here's the thing. I've never read a Geoff Johns book that I hated.
No.
There have been some. There have been some.
Yes.
There have been some where I'm like, this isn't his best work, or like this is a weak book.
Three
but
Jokers.
It's nothing that I've ever read that I'm like, I really hate this book so much. No, fantastic.
But if there's one, if I can give one downside for this, it's kind of like the Wonder Woman, Superman shipping. Some of his ships or the Jason Baz one. He has some weird ship ideas he always wants to try and make canon. In this case,
like Wonder Bat.
Yeah, but I would say in this case, Beast Boy and Raven. And the only reason why
you don't like that?
I've never been a fan. But I'll say this. You know the reason why is? Beast Boy was his favorite Titan, and Raven was his wife's favorite Titan. That's it.
Oh, that's cute, though.
It's cute.
Wait, I've never heard them shipped with anybody else.
Yeah, me too.
Unfortunately, that's because the anime series and this comic happened around the same time, and they both encouraged it. Beforehand, you always have Beast Boy was Terra, and then no one else, and Raven was
Terra,
and Raven was never shipped with anyone until these points. And even then, it's always the case where they start showing the two together, and then they break up, and then someone has to remember, are these two together? Oh, I'll make a note about it, but then they never do much about it after these little moments.
Thanks, Ladia. He knows me. So, but yeah, my problem with shippers, I just want to say that right there because we're talking about this, is that with a lot of them, they'll ship two characters for no reason whatsoever.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, Pika Shades. To be fair, though,
Thank you.
To be fair, Pika Shades. Remember, that was Jericho who forced him to break it.
Mm-hmm.
Jericho possessed his father by that point, or he was trying to take control of him. So to be fair, it was a case where Jericho caused him to break his promise, and after that, it's like, well, it's already broken. Might as well run with it.
Yeah. So tell me about Teen Titans, because it's one of those runs that I actually haven't read yet because there's so much Geoff Johns has written.
Yeah, well, he decided to take the Young Justice and graduate them upward. This is also where he finally does what he's been wanting to do, which was, turns out Connor is actually not a clone of this other guy. God. He's actually a clone, he's a clone of Clark and Lex together.
And by the way, Lad, this is my co-host Lad, by the way. And Lad, you are wrong, my friend. You are wrong, okay?
Wonder Woman and Steve is what I prefer.
Even though, here's the thing, were they really paired together that much pre-New 52? Because it seems to me that he was more like a father figure to her.
Pre-Crisis, they were.
Okay.
They're the one who even got married and had a daughter and everything.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It
was post-Crisis where Perez did not want to go for that. And eventually, Steve got together with Etta Candy.
Okay, that's where I'm confused because I remember they did talk about that at the end of Crisis. So Teen Titans. I've read a few isolated issues of it, so I'm familiar basically with what happened.
Yeah, he basically restored a lot of the original characters, but using some of them for new generations. He had Bart get shot in the kneecaps, and because of that, he then decides to mature a bit more and become Kid Flash instead of Impulse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was, I don't know if he was established beforehand, but was it already established that he had a photographic memory, meaning he could retain all the stuff he read on that the other Flashes couldn't?
I think so.
So. Isn't that where they established like his ADHD or whatever?
No, that was always there.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was new to this.
I disagree with this point because Talia's is the type that will kill Bruce in his sleep.
No, classic Ulysses is correct. 100%.
I prefer Batman and Catwoman. That's just me.
Tom King ruined it for everybody.
Unfortunately, he kind of did. But yeah, then you have, of course, his stuff with Beast Boy. He basically... Yeah.
Don't they bring in Dr. Light, too?
Yes, they do. And now that he actually tied in the stuff that Abbott and Lanning had done, where they had Connor Superboy show up, and then he actually explained what led to that, and then resolved that plot point as he and Mark Waid closed the door on the post-Zero Hour Legion, allowing... but this is also then when we get stuff like Future Titans Tim, who has a gun.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, when Geoff did it, this was him just simply a case where he's been pushed over the edge and all of that, and because he lost his father. It's when Sean McKeever took over that it became a case of, I'm trying to resurrect Connor is what drove him to becoming evil. Basically, the evil future Tim is always constantly evolving. Like I said, there's one downside with his Teen Titans run is that compared to his Green Lantern and everything, it just felt like a run-of-the-mill run by the end. Like that, he just left. He didn't even have a big ending. He just left, and he didn't even finish it.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Bedard had to finish the Titans story arc.
Mm-hmm.
So it just felt like he had some good stuff. He set up a lot of stuff, but then by the end of it all, it just kind of faltered, and he has basically left stuff for other people to pick up.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. What else can we talk about?
Booster.
Oh yeah, we have to. Let's do it.
Booster Goal, both here and in 52. We got to about 52.
Oh
I
yeah.
I was gonna mention 52.
I'm reading
actually
the Black Adam stuff from 52.
So good.
Look at it this way. I was never really a big fan of Black Adam because he's not as pivotal to DC as The Rock would like you to think. However, when I started reading it because I was interested for the movie, I'm like, this dude is awesome.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, people keep saying, why does Superman and Geoff Johns keep on redeeming villains? He doesn't fully redeem them.
No.
He's never fully redeemed them. He showed that they are redeemable, but they are still who they are. In the case of Black Adam, he's still going to become, be bad because it's in his nature.
The work that he did with Black Adam in 52 is some of the best stuff I've seen.
Example.
I would love to see Isis come back. I would love to see Osiris come back. I loved that little family.
I love that, but here's the thing. If they made a movie with her, shouldn't they kind of change her name? Because back then there wasn't a terrorist group of the same name.
Oh,
I didn't think about that. She was in the movie, but she never transformed.
Well, but she never called herself Isis.
Right, exactly. I don't know. I just think that was such a good, No,
it was cool.
I loved it. And then when the most heartbreaking part with Osiris, oh my God.
I just love where
chomped.
Yes.
I just love where Isis is kind of bringing light to Black Adam, and then he just goes full dark when she dies. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is dope. It shows that what Geoff Johns didn't necessarily redeem Black Adam. He just shows that the potential for good is within him. Which I'm fine with that, and that's why Superman is always so merciful with people, because he sometimes naively sees the good in everyone, pretty much, except for Doomsday, because that's just the animal instinct. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Well, and Superman doesn't think anybody, even Batman doesn't think anybody is beyond redemption, right? So
that's why he doesn't kill the Joker, even though the Joker has mass murdered people.
Yeah.
Right. But and another great thing about 52 is that I'm still not a huge Booster fan, but that story, I like Booster, but he's just all right. That story humanized Booster to a point where I love. I
want a buddy cop movie with Booster Gold and Blue Beetle.
That would be great.
But this is still one of my favorite comic runs. Both this and when Dan Jurgens continued on it. Basically, this is what made me love Booster. The fact is, he's been to the point where after 52, he feels like, okay, I saved the multiverse. It's my time to join the Justice League. But then Ripcord is telling him, no, you can't, because you can't become too big, because you're actually going to be the greatest hero the history will never know. But I didn't love it, though, when he meets up with the Justice League. You want to know what Batman says? He ends up saying, hold on, let me find it.
Dun, dun.
No. I already got it. Booster helped us take down Brother Eye. Hell, he stepped up when no one expected him to. Bats, come on. For Blue Beetle, Roy, let's give him a week. We watch him. We see what he does. And if it's a unanimous vote after that, we'll flip a coin.
That's such a Batman thing to say. That's such a Batman thing.
But by the end, then Booster actually does prove it, and they agree we can let you join. But then he realized, because his certificate turns into a death certificate for Hal, he then realizes, oh, gotcha! I just wanted to do it so I could turn you down. And because of that, then he he didn't want to, but he realized, oh crap, if I don't stop this, Hal's going to die. But then at the end, what is it revealed? Batman actually knew what Hal was and what Booster was doing. He's known since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Since he first met him.
But why? Well, because he's Batman, exactly.
Well, it's also because Rip, Trick, and Booster into going back in time to try and save Babs, saying she should never been paralyzed. But then it turns out, that whole bit was because of the photo evidence where he saw him and he's like, you wore a different outfit. He didn't have the neck collar or anything. So I waited. I waited until you grew up. And because he basically knew like the reason why he was so hard on him is like, I know you're going to be a better man. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Only a good man would be going through this much punishment to save Babs. Because he was tortured. He was tortured.
Which I'm going to say this right now. I've always preferred Barbara Gordon as Oracle. That's just me. That's just me. Because
I love her in that role. It's perfect for her.
Because arguably she is the most powerful hero on Earth when she's in the role of Oracle because she has the weapon of information. Plus the fact it gives people that like have a issue representation again with someone that's so powerful and so prominent in the because when you think about it, it wasn't just the Bat Family she was helping, the Suicide Squad and the freaking Justice League. So I'm like, yeah, she was pretty dope there. Yep.
Oh, but I also sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna agree. I love her as Batgirl. I do. And I think where they have her now is okay, where she's kind of doing a bit of both. But her as Oracle was so ideal because she was able to be that, for lack of a better term, like real fucking girl boss. Like she held everything in her hand. And even like in the more recent stuff where she's helping from behind the scenes but can still be Batgirl, that kind of has her on the outs of like, she's in the middle. I love her in that role. And she's the perfect, we see people complain a little bit about, there was a Spider-Man recently that was paralyzed or something. This is another situation where I don't ever remember any complaints about that story.
I think the problem with the Spider-Man one is that this character is swinging around and acting like Spider-Man, but then goes into a wheelchair.
That's fair. And I don't know. I haven't read it.
Oh, but like I said, we have his JSA stuff.
Yes, let's talk about his JSA stuff because that I'm reading, and I this classic JSA stuff, and I am loving that.
I have not read. Unfortunately, I have not read the other stuff. I just read from this point onward.
Yeah, me too. I love that. The JSA is one of those concepts that I'm glad they're finally getting attention in the movies because here's the thing. In the movies, because I always thought that they could use them kind of like as a covert team for the Justice League as opposed to like them competing. Yes.
I was hoping for Tristen.
Oh my God. You know what? The fact that Geoff Johns, when he did his JSA stuff, created a character out of his sister's memory.
Yes,
is one of the sweetest things ever. And then
that was his breakout.
And wait, actually, speaking of that, there's one other series that we didn't talk about. JLA from the new 52.
Well, we started it.
Kind of. We're going off of that because it's like it's basically all the Earth's heroes that are intended to fight the Justice League because apparently the superheroes become a threat because Superman and Wonder Woman are dating. I'm like, okay, that's the one part where I'm like, that's a weak reason. But I like because Stargirl's on that, and that was my first exposure to that character, and I'm like, oh, I like this character so much. She's very endearing.
She is, and she's so like, let's go and do it. Like she's so happy all the time, and I love that. And the way he does Cyclone, Cyclone's one of my favorite characters. I was so excited for her in the Black Adam movie, and it was sort of a letdown where she didn't really have much screen time. But
because it wasn't a Cyclone movie, and Robert, I think you muted again.
Dun, 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 dun. Sorry. I know it wasn't a Cyclone movie, but it was just you never expect to see these what are they, B or C even characters from the JLA or the JSA actually make screen time. So the idea of not only her but then her and Ma Hunkel and everybody all together, this idea of what was so great about that story, it revolved a lot around family. And Geoff Johns has a way that he writes that makes it very wholesome. 90% of the time.
Actually, that brings up a point that Liana pointed out to me when I had her on for my Three Jokers Pro Teachers Noob. And it's something I kind of realized. And it was really shown to its detriment in the Three Jokers story. Geoff Johns writes all women like they are not perfect, but they can most of them could do almost no wrong. That they're more able to get their shit together than men can. And because look at how he treated Babs in Three Jokers. It was a case where it's like, you handled it. You were able to overcome it, even though throughout the book it was made clear she hadn't overcome it. But it's like, you were able to do it, but Jason, I was hoping to be more like you. It's like, you get it, but at the same time, you realize this is how he looks at all women in his writing. Not to the point of being like, oh, they're perfect, but at the same time, they're like, they writes almost all female characters almost the same in the same mold of his sister.
And I can see that,
I understand
but that also shows how he has an outlook on women, right?
Yeah,
like
which is better than other.
He still sees them as strong. That's the point there. So
oh yeah, but then it can backfire like Babs in Three Jokers, where it's like that doesn't, you're kind of degrading, make it be like, oh, she was able to overcome it when it again. You're then showing in moments like her on the treadmill that no, she's not over it. So, but. Mm-hmm. Then you keep saying, "Oh, you did get over it." It's like you can't have it both ways, Geoff.
True.
Well, he was the one who wrote the Crimson Avenger stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at that character, this is not a perfect character. This is a very haunted, traumatized character. That's so true. I think he's able. I think he has an idealistic version of characters like Stargirl, but he's also able to look and give them more diversity of thought, so to speak. Crimson Avenger was I love that character. And it is something that I think is it's a cool concept. Yeah, we had all these characters take over and she did, and she's so fucking haunted. And she tries to kill herself, but she can't. That is some serious shit.
Oh, did you know in Geoff Johns' final issue of JSA, it's adorable. At first, it looks like they think she's going to finally have her braces taken off. I love this. I didn't mean everybody. They're all there. But then it's revealed. It's like, nothing like seeing your kid smile. Come on, Star. You ain't going to ever hear me say please again. And it turns out she has to have him for another year.
Yeah. Now,
Stargirl's adorable.
There's another Geoff Johns series that we haven't talked about. His run on Aquaman.
I was about to bring that up.
Yes, which is pretty much when you look at the movie's plot too. It very closely followed the Aquaman run at majorly. It took a major plot point. So what I like about Aquaman, he essentially
he's the Superman of the oceans.
Yeah, he made Aquaman a badass before Jason Momoa did, really, when you think about it.
Yeah. I always say Jason Momoa got him away from the jokes, but you're right.
Geoff Johns did, and I just love it. Like, you talk to fish. Like, isn't it kind of hypocritical? You're eating fish. Like, I don't talk to fish. That's a misconception. I nudge them.
Yeah. It's and what's really cool about that is that I like the way he writes Arthur's relationship with Mara, because because he was keeping from her that he was on this elite team that was going around killing people, and you see he's dealing with that shame, and then it essentially brings him closer to Mara. And I really like the way Geoff Johns writes relationships really well, because he does write that sort of that dynamic really well. And let's not forget the way he writes Mara, where she's like, she walks into a convenience store and the dude that runs it is hitting on her, and she's like, go away.
Yeah, or Ocean Master. He actually made Ocean Master sympathetic to the point where it took how long before they actually had to do something with him, because they basically left it open for him to be doing this Rulers of the Deep or whatever, or whatever. But they never resolved it.
Yeah.
It took forever before they finally say, oh, he's back to being a bad guy again, because they didn't know what to do. Yeah.
But it's like, again, it's when when you think about it, that's also when it crossed over with Justice League, when you had the Throne of Atlantis arc and all that, where you had Aquaman actually fighting to be king and realizing, okay, I can't just ignore this responsibility because someone's going to be king, and I'm the only one that can keep the ocean, the surface world, and the undersurface world from going to war against each other. So I guess I gotta be king at this point.
Yes.
That bridge concept, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
We'll
going to
talk about
mention that, and then another one I wanted to mention was Earth 1 too. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But Shazam, let's talk about Shazam, which is again the movie.
It bothers, but I think the movie improved on what Geoff Johns had done by not making Billy such an asshole.
True, he was kind of a douche.
That was the case where I'm like, Jeff, I get you're trying to subvert, but this was going overboard. He went overboard. Just to make the point of saying, like, no one can be pure good. But then so the Wizard's like, so wait, if I have to look for someone who's at least has the potential for great good, to which it's like, that's what I've been missing all along. I mean, it's like, was that the whole reason why you're having he never picked another champion because his standards was too high?
Yeah, probably. But well, considering the last guy was Black Adam, so
no, that's true. That's true. But even then, though, remember, Black Adam wasn't their choice.
Yeah,
it was then made clear he killed his son, which. I'm
glad The Rock changed that in the movie because that was so stupid. I'm like, okay, I'm fine with the way it worked in the movie. That's the one time where it deviates from comic canon that I'm like, yeah, I like that a lot better.
Well,
that makes sense.
Well, we already mentioned the other one again was Billy. We just mentioned, so there was 2 times it deviated.
Yeah, that too. But I'm saying that the first time I was aware with like Black Adam, I was like, yeah, because knowing how Black Adam got his power, I'm like, yeah, because if you're trying to make Black Adam like at least an anti-hero or like some heroic like
relatively sympathetic.
But that was that start though. But now was that start where he killed his own son or nephew.
But I'm saying
it was a nephew.
I think, but regardless, if you're trying to make this character somewhat sympathetic, killing a kid to steal his powers, the movie audience is not going to forget that.
No,
they're going to be like, he's bad, he's villain.
Now, had they wanted to go the villainous route, that would have worked. That would have absolutely worked.
But that's why I also don't get them why Geoff Johns, when he actually did the ongoing series at the end, and sets up. Oh, Black Adam is going to be one of the champions with them, and he's going to be saying, "Let's order pizza with everyone." It's like, how do we get from here to there?
Yeah.
Great. Now I want pizza.
It says it was his nephew. Yeah. Now let's go to Batman Earth 1 because the Earth 1 series is all 3 of at least the ones for the Trinity I love so much, particularly like Wonder Woman and Superman. I was like, yes. But Batman, my favorite part of Batman is like he tries to throw the grappling gun, but it gets tangled up. It like shows that without support, Batman in the early days was like horrible.
Well, it's more. Here's how I look at it. As they put it before, the first one was making a better Batman. Mm-hmm. The second volume was about making him a better detective, and then the third one was about making a better family.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say this though, when it comes to the Trinity's books. Wonder Woman ended way too definitively.
Yeah.
Way too definitively. Superman ended way too open-ended. But Batman ended perfectly where it could end here if they wanted to, or they can pick up the ball if they want to.
I love the stuff that he did with his grandfather.
Oh,
with
yeah.
The Arkham, with kind of going the mental health aspect.
Yeah, you and I talked about that.
Yeah, and then the what was the other the Two-Face kind of?
The twisting of that, and how instead of it being just another personality, it was her brother was the other half.
And here's a good question: if you had powers, would you be a hero, villain, or anti-hero? I'd be an anti-hero.
I would try to be more heroic. But
I'd be an anti-hero leaning toward heroic.
Yes, that's what I would be.
Well, hold on, my cats are fighting. Then I'll answer the question. Hold on.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I agree with you because, again, I think that Geoff Johns, for the most part, gets Batman. And I think his Earth 1...
People think he hates them. No, he hates Bat God. He hates Bat God. That is clearly why he was taking the piss out of Batman.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give you that. And Tevye says he wasn't a fan of Teen Titans Earth 1.
I thought it was all right. But it only works in the world where they share the other worlds together.
Yeah, and for Superman Earth One, I always thought that would be a good, like, if they ever wanted to do another Superman origin movie, they could pretty much align with that kind of, for the most part.
According to the Davises, they keep claiming, "Oh, they stole from us."
Oh lordy!
I mean, there are points from
Man
Man
of
of
answer
Steel.
the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to think I'd be a hero,
Oh boy.
but we're all a little bit human, and if I was like needing to pay bills or something, so I would have to go with anti-hero, just because I'd like to think I'd always do the right thing. But knowing me, that wouldn't always happen. I love Selena there. She looks so good.
What? Wow, yeah. Well, let me put it this way. I wouldn't be Injustice Superman. But
No. Yeah.
No.
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 That's a villain. That's not even an anti-hero. That is villain.
That is a villain. What I would mostly be is a hero, but recognizes that
I would not be the authority either. I would
no.
be. I would not. I would feel like I would do what I can, but I'm not going to take over the world.
I would be Selena because I like pretty shiny things.
And Tevia asks, it's interesting, speaking of Earth One, but Green Lantern Earth One was freaking amazing.
I can't wait for the final one whenever they get to that.
Because the way that he introduces it, where Hal is like, air quotes, chosen to be a lantern when the core is like practically destroyed, and the way he like, because the way I always thought of Earth One is the ultimate world, but for DC.
Yeah.
And the way they did it was so good.
That was the original point, but then it kind of kept on. You have people come and go and all that.
I wish that they kind of linked the books together, but here's the thing about it. When you read the ending,
they tried to.
When you read the ending to Wonder Woman Earth One, they kind of can't.
Yeah. And I actually talked to Yannick Paquette about that. He said, even Grant was like, fuck that. Even though I'm like, really? Grant was the one who tried to tease it. It's like, Grant was playing ball when he teased it in Multiversity. He was playing ball, trying to imply that they coexisted. But he was like, no, that ending was always what they wanted, which was, and Yannick made it very clear, all the talking points they had in there are not his and Grant's beliefs.
Which I like that. And I like that you can do it because you think
people thought it was their beliefs when it's like, no, the whole point of it was telling a story, which was what would lead to their creator, Marsden's vision of female empowerment.
That's kind of what it was.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean they believed it. That does not mean they believed it. They never believed it.
I like that.
Well, you should be able to write characters without necessarily having the same belief structure that they would have.
Because here's the thing: you should be able to write because you should be able to write characters without having to change how these characters specifically believe.
Exactly, but I think, and if people like Geoff Johns he's very apolitical.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, though, you then have so many but there's more creators these days who do use comics as their mouthpieces and all that.
Some of them do it well. Let me be clear on that. You can have a political
Green Arrow is always the best one for these liberals.
Wait, hard traveling heroes. You can always have a political bent in your books. The point is you don't want to make it in such a way where the audience feels like an a-hole if they disagree with you, which a lot of writers sometimes fall into that. Yes, Final Crisis was like one of the stories where I'm like, the hell did I just read?
Why is it I understood it? Why is it I understood it?
Well, I understood the basic idea, but it's very Grant Morrison.
And
that says everything you need to know, too.
Which I like it because I love his Justice League run. I still think that is probably the best Justice League run we've ever gotten.
Even better than Mark Waid, like his Tower of Babel?
I mean, I took Mark Waid as kind of a compliment to Grant Morrison's Justice League.
He was filling in for him, and then he took over right after him.
I'm saying the overall story, I love Grant Morrison. Yes.
I love how I love the reveal that Superboy Prime was the inspiration for the Legion of Villains.
Yeah. But for Grant Morrison, my favorite moment of that Justice League run is when Batman is fighting the White Martians, and he tells him he figured it out. He draws a thing of gasoline around them and goes, "Let's go!" Because I'm like, that is so Batman. He's like, "Okay, come at me, let's do this." And I'm like, "Yes, Batman." But beyond that, one
of my favorite moments is during the last part.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments is with Superman and Huntress.
Yeah.
Hold on. Where is it? Where is it? Please tell me this is the right one. Crap, that's not. This isn't the right one.
We forgive you.
It's all good.
No, this should be the right one. So where? I hate having to flip through this stuff.
And yes, Tevye agrees with me. Final Crisis was really confusing. I covered it when Zack Snyder had it in the part of his picture.
Stop it!
I covered it because it was trending at that point. So I'm like, we might as well jump on this.
Yep.
So surprisingly, White Martians made a comeback in Future State, which I'm like, okay. The only time where I recall Geoff Johns being partisan politic is that a comic was Doomsday Clock, and that was one of John's weakest comics, in my opinion. Nope, that's wrong. It was all right. But
even that, he had Putin in there, but even then, Putin was treated like a man, like a guy. Like you had Pfizer trying to say, "Oh, we should trying to say, why do we want you, Superman?" And then Putin's like, "Hold it, he represents the world, not America." It's only when Superman made it clear he was siding with
Firestorm
that.
Yeah.
But even then, Putin's like, after what he did to my people.
Yeah,
I don't see that as partisan politics at all. No. Maybe I missed it.
And speaking of partisan politics, actually, I don't think there's any writer that's more adept. Granted, Simon Bass is the exception at creating a diverse character, Green Lantern kind of can count as a legacy character and do it in such a good way, i.e. Jessica Cruz. Again, I keep bringing that up because that's where I first showed.
Found it.
Yeah.
Found it.
Yes, oh, wow.
But it's not what you think. He basically said, sorry about that. It was the only way. Like, you needed oxygen fast. It was the only way.
Okay.
But I love it how, basically, she's out in space. So just flew up there and did it. But I love how she's like, Superman, Mamma Mia. She's just going to be like,
because that's 100% what would happen. But that's 100% the way space works.
Look, she got flown into space. So the only Superman, remember, Superman's always holding oxygen in himself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he did. Pure extra oxygen. So yeah, he did that trying to get it to her lungs before she.
Yeah, but it's like now. Let me ask you guys this: go around. What book or character do you think that Geoff Johns has not touched recently? Would you love him to do an ongoing for?
Oh, an ongoing? Ooh. I don't know for an ongoing. That's
Mime and Marionette.
Okay, there you go. Assuming that they would do an ongoing on Mime and Marionette, but I see what you're doing.
Yeah, no. It would be cool. Honestly, either that or Jessica. Just because.
Yes, Jessica Cruz, please. I want her to have an ongoing, period.
Yeah, it would be nice. And I would love to see more. We're getting 6 issues of Stargirl and 12 issues of JSA. I thought it was initially an ongoing, but that's fine. We're getting, again, Geoff Johns does this where he introduces characters, right? And he's doing it again with these lost children. Some of the designs for they're really cool. I love the Molly picture.
Yeah.
It's so Bombshells-esque. It's so cute. And he's honestly Tinian does a lot of introductions of new characters. We see it's kind of what his trope. Yeah. And I like Punchline, but he doesn't do it near as well as Johns do.
No, he doesn't. Because here's the thing. Ultimately, Punchline is discount Harley Quinn, ultimately.
She's still different enough. She's not as insane as Harley.
But the concept is still there, so I'm I see what you're doing there.
Well, in the issue I have, and I like Teenie Howard's miniseries that she's working on right now, the Gotham game. It's good, but even in that, they kind of do the back and forth with her being like Harley Quinn, and she's cute, she's adorable, she's a good cosplay character, but you have to separate her enough to make her stick, and I don't think they've achieved that at all yet.
And Tevia, I've told you this 80,000 times. They're not de-aging Jon Kent.
I've been trying to tell. Even Phil K. Johnson just mentioned that.
He addressed it in an article and said they can't do that because too much has been done with Jon Kent. Too many storylines that they would wipe out, and they would take away an LGBTQ icon. So they can't do that. They ultimately cannot do that.
It's never going to happen.
It's not, and even if they were to say, "Oh, he's from another Earth," that would still be just as disrespectful to what.
Now they could still tell stories about him as a 10-year-old kid in as an Elseworld story, or as essentially a like flashback. But ultimately, the canon Jon Kent is going to be this. Now here's the thing, though. I'm going to give this new Jon Kent. I'm going to give Jon Kent another chance because first off, we're finally addressing the Ultraman thing, and what Dark Crisis number 6 taught me is, okay, I don't hate Jon Kent. I just hate Jon Kent written by Tom Taylor because when
even Tom Taylor has some good moments though. Like
he has some good moments.
Final arc.
Yeah, but what I loved, that one moment where he has his last stand against the Dark Army, I was like, I have never been a Jon Kent fan, but this makes me a Jon Kent fan. Where he's like, Dad, I hope you are proud of me. You show the flashbacks, and then Superman catches Doomsday's fist. I'm like, oh, this is dope.
But to answer your question that I didn't answer yet, I would say Firestorm.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Especially after what happened with Doomsday Clock. And the fact that Williamson actually acknowledged it, showing that Firestorm still hasn't gone over it.
Yeah.
He still hasn't gone over it all. That's why he refused to join John. I would like Geoff Johns to come in and resolve this stuff, especially after how the hell is Ronnie going to ever forgive Stein?
Yeah.
How the hell is he ever going to forgive him after finding out you manipulated me? You used me.
Mm-hmm.
And my one more point that I wanted to say is that moment, go back to John, when he catches that Doomsday fist, and where Clark catches it, it had this energy right here.
Not impressed.
Immediately, that's what popped into my mind when that scene happened, and I'm like, okay, thank you, Joshua Williamson. That's when he earned my loyalty as a reader, because I've always been a Joshua Williamson fan, but this was like, yes.
Yeah. One point to Tavia is you gotta remember also this, dude. Geoff Johns would have played ball. He probably would have kept John. I don't think he would have
kept him.
He would have done that because look, he's already acknowledging Alan Scott being gay.
Now, here's the thing: if Bendis had not aged him up, would they have aged him up? No, I don't. I don't think.
We wouldn't want to keep him a kid forever, though, would we?
They wouldn't have, but I think they would have done it in a more organic way than the way that Bendis did it. So
Bendis did it. I think Phil K. Johnson, if he could, he would undo a lot. I do have that feeling he would have.
Well, they are, because they're restoring the secret identity, which I call it the Bendising of DC has begun.
Yeah, but except for John, but I do think that's why they're having Tom go and deal with the Ultraman stuff, because I think they realize that's hanging over the heads too long. That's been hanging over.
Yeah, that's what everyone thought the story was going to be when they were announced he was doing an the series, which let me be clear, it could be I just don't like the Son of Kal series we got, and that's fine because I'm a big proponent, and Tristen, I know you agree with me on this. There's no such thing as a bad character. They're just bad writers, or not necessarily bad writers in the case of Tom Taylor, but writers who at least I think don't necessarily fit with their particular characters. Because I love Tom Taylor's Elseworlds work. 100% love his Elseworlds
work. His John in that. His
John in Deceased is freaking amazing.
But it's a different John, though.
It's a different John. That's what that's my thing. But let me be clear: if you liked the Son of Kal series he wrote, more power to you. It just wasn't my thing.
I would say this:
that's super fair.
Why do I have a feeling that the stuff with Jay was meant to be what we saw at the end, before the Return of Kal-El stuff? Why do I think that would have been the moment when the two would have finally had their big kiss and been more revealed?
Editorial pushed it up to 5.
Editorial pushed it up to 5. I think that's what threw everything off, because once he did it, he then realized, well, I got to make sure people still, I still do stuff with them as a couple.
No.
And I think, though, if he hadn't done it sooner, I think he would have seeded it more and built it up more organically and naturally if editorial hadn't forced him.
Now, the one point on the Son of Kal stuff that I really think is kind of heavy-handed is when he goes, okay, so John's going to come out to his father. Will his father accept him? I'm like, Superman works with members of the LGBT community all the time, i.e. Diana and all that stuff. I'm like, this shouldn't be a big event. He's coming out to...
At least you acknowledge that was Diana. How many people are still denying that?
Well, here's the thing, though. It's because it was said out. It was kind of addressed, but it's never really been like 100% addressed in the comics. So at least, let me put it this way: I acknowledge that she is seen as that icon, but I'm just saying he works with members of that community. So I don't think to put doubt in people's mind that Superman would accept his son nonetheless, I think is an insult to Superman. That's just me.
Yes.
But did they put doubt about Clark? He was just scared to tell him.
But that's still Tom Taylor.
Teased it.
That's still Tom Taylor. So I'm like, dude, Superman would 100% accept his son. There shouldn't be any doubt of that.
All he would want for his son is to be happy.
But that doesn't mean you can't have the scene where John was worried. That doesn't mean you don't.
You can have that, but it's just the whole event that was teased, and I'm like, oh God, guys, you guys are killing me with this.
I get it. I do think it would be hard for him to tell his dad whether it was a male or female. I think it was just that first serious relationship.
And that's where I still stand with Tom Taylor. If you look at Jay, if Jay was a girl, it would have been, he's writing it no different than if it was a girl. I do not see anything different with Jay if his gender was flipped at all. Whereas what Megan Fitzmartin is doing with Tim and Bernard, no.
Yeah, that's no.
By the way,
I dropped Robin.
I would see. Here's the thing. Remember at like the beginning of New Frontier when they were saying about how John was going to become a dictator. This thought that that was going to lead to that because
no. John was never going to be a dictator. That was a misconception people had. If it was going to be a case where you would have had Superman, Superman would have become more, and Phil Kennedy Johnson corrected me on this on my interview with him. He basically made it clear that Superman was going to be more heavy-handed, but it wasn't going to be that type of heavy-handedness that people kept thinking. It was going to be something completely different. And Moore's even said, it was going to be a case where Superman was going to be divided into Superman red and blue. Red would have been more Republican. Blue would have been more Democratic.
That would have been cool because honestly, what you could have done. Here's how you could have had two Supermen. Have Clark be the more like right-leaning character. Obviously, not extreme right, but you get what I'm saying, and have John be the more left-leaning. So you have both those perspectives.
Which I think kind of is that way.
He's battling. One thing I love about him is he's battling injustice, right? He's not just fighting crime. He's battling injustice. And I think that that's absolutely true. The younger generation right now is more liberal leaning. So of course, if you look at it from that kind of a standpoint, Clark is very conservative in his values. He's very much so I would think something along those lines, conservative Christian man, whereas his son is still finding himself.
I disagree with this because this goes along with the notion of bisexual characters also being open to everyone. It's like, no, John is the type who would be committed to a relationship. Why would he need more than one love interest?
Make him a player.
Why? Just to show, he's into girls too.
But
don't do that if you're going to write a proper relationship.
True, but Tristen, it took away you said about John facing social issues. Yeah, I would have been fine with that. The issue is a lot of them felt like tone deaf, like that one cover of him protesting climate change.
They never appear in the issue.
But here's my issue with that and why that cover turned me off. Because there are like 18 characters in DC that could fix the climate with a snap of their fingers. So why? It doesn't make sense. And second off, I'm fine with him facing social issues because I agree with you that that's what a superhero of that generation would do. But the problem is that it seemed, at least to me, to be a little too much in that side and less on the grand scale superhero thing. Yeah. And you're reading a book called Superman, so you expect a little more than what we got, essentially.
And that's fair. That cover was a special variant for Tom Taylor Lives in Australia. They were doing a protest for climate change there. and it was so support for that. But I get what you say. You have to work within the world you've created. So if you've created a world where you have super genius men that could fix climate crisis in a second, then you've got to play with those rules that are pre-established. And unfortunately, that cover wouldn't went along with it at all. Especially the one where it said there's no planet B. Yes, there literally is. There literally is.
There's another planet Earth, by the way. There's 52 of them.
Now, I will say this. If there's one other problem with Tom Taylor is he's unfortunately type who's saying, my view is right, and if you don't agree with me, you're evil.
That goes into my issue with a lot of people addressing politics in their books, and why I love Geoff Johns. When he addresses politics, he shows you both sides and says, okay, you know what? Both sides are legitimate.
Same with Williamson and Adams.
Yes, exactly. Both sides are legitimate. And that's why I have the trait of that, because normally I hate it when writers address politics in their book. Now, let me be clear. I'm fine with them addressing like social issues and politics. I don't like it when I'm treated as like wrong and you don't want me to buy your book if I don't agree with what you're pointing to in the book. I'm fine with you addressing politics. You can do that.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. More fair than the majority of, kind of vocal minority we hear about that. You're at least willing to hear it out. Whereas some people are like, any left-leaning politics, I'm out. No, you're at least willing to give it a shot. If somebody can write.
To be clear, if a book is only right-leaning politics, I'm gonna have issues with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why I say, and that's the other thing also I've noticed. When people complain about Son of Kal, they're always just bringing about him being bi, I've noticed. It's less, especially by the more later issues of it, where he's finally dealing with, what was the country? Gomorrah. He was finally dealing with it. Like, that felt like, or when, yes, you have Tom Taylor say stuff like, he was able to do it without having to throw a punch, which is like,
I actually didn't notice because I thought it was well done. I would have never noticed that.
I did an article. I did a video on that article, as you just mentioned, Robert, where Tom Taylor says basically says he was more heroic being a bi man, essentially Clark or something like. He said something that was construed to that point, and I was like, okay, dude, I get what you're saying. You could say he was heroic doing coming out as bi and all that stuff, but. And that's my other issue. Whenever they like create a legacy character, a lot of writers tend to crap on the original version of the character.
Jay
did that in issue 2, and I didn't like that. I will agree. Yeah,
I will agree with that. That's where it starts to lose me. But at least he doesn't dwell on it.
He doesn't dwell on it, which I'm like, okay, that's fine.
He's also a son, right? He's talking to his dad. He's a little upset with him. You're gonna say things you regret.
Exactly.
But the problem is, at least I didn't see it. Clark should have said, hey, listen, I can't address everything because ultimately I'm not a god. He should have pointed to like Batman's argument in Injustice. We're not gods. We don't rule people.
Hey, Dave, I guess it's to Dave. Dave, but then that's still one side, but then he still has moments where it's the other side, like Superman getting cancel cultured. That felt pretty left-leaning.
Donald Trump.
No, but even then, they never directly had Trump. They had references about golfing in the first issue, and then they were having to be like the presidents on social media and all that.
They're always going to address
notice that.
Well, but here's the thing on that: they're always going to
time. So.
They're always exactly. They're always going to address the president of the time in their book.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
If it came out a few years earlier, he would have done Obama.
I didn't even notice that. I'm gonna have to go look back. I guess I didn't realize it, but. To be fair, no, I'm not going to go there. Never mind.
Yeah. But that's a MAGA cap. I do not recall a MAGA cap guy going after Rorschach.
No, I don't recall. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, but like I said, you had other moments. Again, you had Superman getting canceled because of what happened in Russia.
Yeah, he shows both sides. And honestly, he shows both sides as being weak. So I'm like, okay, you know what? At least you're showing there are problems with both sides. So that's another thing. If a lot of these writers were equally bashing both sides of the political spectrum, I've been fine with that. But when you only bash one side, it starts to feel like even if you agree with that side, it weakens the writing. I think.
Again, Philip Kennedy Johnson. He's another case of a guy who, yes, he will be spoken about his politics, and he will use. And he's the fact that Warworld was basically a parallel to trafficking and all that. You
Yeah.
know, those type of issues.
Human
But
trafficking.
he did it right. He did it right where he
It's
used
an allegory.
An allegory.
And first off, he's addressing an issue that pretty much every normal person is against, trafficking. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm also fine with that. If they want to address a social issue, address like superheroes fighting terrorism, because that's something we can all agree on.
I think you can do a story that hones in on if you want to do something about racism or homophobia or you know, you can. You have to be a very talented writer, because you can't do those stories being overly preachy, or you're going to you may not turn everyone off. You may not turn me off, but you're going to turn off a good chunk of your audience who's just not going to return.
And then guess what? What you're going to do is you're going to turn off the audience, not just to your addressing of it. Say a better writer comes out and is going to address those issues. The audience won't pay attention to it because they're like, it's just another one of those woke books.
That's what look at what's going on with the Mario movie lately. You're having a lot of people are adoring it. Then you have some people who are
it looks so cute.
It
looks so good.
Yeah, but if you notice
so
how people are not the usual suspects. Certain groups out there, G&G for everyone, are saying, oh, they're making Mario weak and Peach they're complaining about Peach being a badass. They're complaining about her being a badass, saying this is woke. They're saying it's woke because of it. It's like, yeah, Peach has always been a badass. What are you guys talking about?
And the word woke's lost all meaning. Let's just be real.
Yeah, well, let me put it this way. The way I address woke is that there's woke. There's not necessarily woke. That's just bad writing.
Yeah.
I'm like,
absolutely.
Okay.
That's why I say this with some.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I've realized this. People like Geoff Johns, Joshua Williamson, Jeremy Adams, Philip Kennedy Johnson are people who are mostly apolitical. Okay, maybe Philip Kennedy Johnson's a little bit.
Or they write it in a way where you don't feel insulted if you disagree with them.
Then you have some of the people who do write it where they're insult you. Your Megan Fitzmartins and all that. But I think Tom Taylor is a little in between. Tom Taylor, he leans a little bit closer to like the Fitzmartins, but he doesn't always hammer it in every single issue. Like
plus,
people like this thing.
He lets you decide.
Again, Tom Taylor,
he will remind you about it or make his political views clear. But if you actually read his writing, it's not as bad as when other people are claiming or other people who are being uberly political do.
Plus, what's funny, I call it the Tom Taylor paradox. For some reason, I think he's a better writer in Elseworlds titles.
Yes.
I agree.
It's like, if you read Injustice, Dark Knights of Steel, Deceased, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Let me put this way.
Dark Ages.
Hell, Jon Kent in Dark Knights in Deceased. That was like, yeah, and I said this in my video on Jon Kent. Yeah, he is Superman at that moment. I'm fine calling that one Superman because he's acting like essentially the way you would think of Superman in that book.
I would say though, when it comes to him as in Son of Kal, he was initially just filling in the role, but then he earned the role by Dark Crisis.
Oh yeah, in Dark Crisis, that one moment. Dark Crisis, he earns the role of Superman, at least in my opinion.
So
that last stand, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm fine calling you Superman at this one moment because you are Superman, because that's exactly what your father would do.
Absolutely.
And I think him overthrowing Gamora was also him being Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Once he helped stop them
and freeing all those people,
yes,
that's what Superman would do. It's just for the Son of Kal. It took too long for him to get to that point.
I will agree with that.
And people checked out by then and didn't realize the end. That was actually he landed the ending. It just took too long. 18 issues is a lot to ask from somebody.
And by the way,
it was actually 15 issues for that story.
To talk about Tom Taylor addressing politics. Injustice.
Yes,
it's a heavily political book. But once again,
for sure.
By the way, both sides, in my opinion, tell me what you think of this. Both sides are responsible for what happens in Injustice because both sides are too entrenched in their ideas. Like, no, my way's right. No, my way's right. But the answer is somewhere in the middle.
When Tom Taylor wrote it, you were right. Unfortunately, once you got any comic creators out of it, when they did Injustice 2, that pissed me off because they basically made it clear Superman was a villain.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because when you think about it, like this way, Batman is partly responsible because if he had been there for Clark when all this happened. I don't think Clark would have gone so insane later on. It's partly because Batman practically shunned Clark because Batman has this zealous aversion to killing people.
It's even worse than Injustice. Like even parademons, it's bad.
The parademons.
I'm like, wait a second, parademons, aliens don't count.
Parademons in other versions.
I'm like,
what the hell?
I'm like, Batman, you literally kill parademons all the time in the mainstream comics
because they're mindless. They are The only time they had a mind was in Superman, Batman Generations.
Yeah, I was like, dude, the alien minions that are mind controlled, criminals, I can kind of see the argument. I mean, the Joker, I'm convinced he should have gone, okay, Clark, I may not like you killing, but Joker kind of nuked a city and killed your wife. I'm fine with you killing the Joker. Yeah, and baby, I think at that point, Superman deserves a pass for punching
especially
a hole in
after what he
shit.
did. Especially after what we find out he did in the year 0.
Yeah, I'm like,
he's responsible for killing how many of the Justice Society?
I'm like, dude. But I'm more of the opinion where they have to update that no killing rule to no murder, because there are times when, let me put it this way, you have to kill the villain.
Oh yeah. Now, I will also say this. I think the other problem is, of course, you have Tom Taylor. He's stuck within the edicts of Ed Boon, and Ed Boon, he treats Batman just like he treats Scorpion. Perfect. Never wrong.
Yeah. Batman has been wrong because, let me put it this way, Jason Todd, his treatment of Jason Todd is partly wrong because except
in Gotham Knights.
Gotham Knights was and the game was fantastic.
Oh my God.
I will not let anyone bash. I will let no one bash the Gotham Knights story.
Pikachu is right on this one. Is right on this one.
But Batman should have complained about Superman killing Calabac after he yielded. Yeah, that's a war crime. Yeah, exactly. But parademons, really?
Yeah.
I will say this great with my favorite Superman moment in Justice when he flies to Apocalypse and beats the crap out of Darkseid, and Darkseid's like, "Oh no, this dude is not holding back. Oh no!" I'm like, "Yeah." When you can make Darkseid, because in my headcanon, Darkseid felt fear for the first time. When you can make Darkseid feel fear, that's a moment there.
Who do you want as a villain for Injustice 3? Me, I say the Anti-Monitor. I think we've reached a point where we need the Anti-Monitor because Darkseid seems a bit too obvious.
No.
After Brainiac?
Yeah, I wouldn't do Darkseid. I honestly, Anti-Monitor, I could see. Honestly, I could definitely see
or more villainous Dr. Manhattan.
That would be so cool.
Oh my gosh! Can you imagine DC versus Watchmen? They do, and it's called Injustice 3 Doomsday Clock.
Imagine Rorschach as a fighting character.
Yes.
We should bring
that would be so cool.
It should be a battle for the multiverse, so you can, because it should be like what they did for Mortal Kombat 11, where they had different times. In this case, we have different Earths.
Yes,
that would be so cool.
They could bring back the versions of the characters that they brought in the first game and say, "Hey, we need you again. We're kind of getting our ass kicked over here."
Now,
and then
which ending should they go with? Because technically, they've already followed up on the Superman ending with Master of the Universe.
He-Man, which was so cool. I like that. That was so dope. I'm like, yes. Oh, by the way, Injustice 3, the Justice Lords.
They are the Justice Lords already, though.
They're pretty much the Justice Lords when you think about it.
As long as it has Constantine, I'm happy.
Yes, I want Constantine as a playable character, please.
Raymond, why did you have to bring it up that way?
Because that's smart.
By the way, you know who I want?
Smart.
You know who I want as a playable character in Injustice 3 is He-Man. I want He-Man.
That would be cool.
By the way, speaking of Injustice, I am undefeated as Wonder Woman.
Ooh.
And I am undefeated as Robin. I could kick your ass. Just saying.
We'll have to see on that because I've defeated many.
I want to ask then, one other thing. What would you say is Geoff Johns' best event he's done?
Actually, you know what?
I'm going to list what I mean by event.
52.
That doesn't count.
Yes, it does. I said so.
No. Because he was a group writer. It was a group of writers. That don't count because he wasn't the sole writer.
Wait, before you answer the question, you guys, I gotta go. But thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. This was super fun.
Yeah, we need to do it again. Come on the channel more often.
That's totally fine, and you guys can come on too. I love just non-political,
positive,
freaking positive fandom. I love it so much.
I want your answer. Well, I want your answer then. What would
Okay,
you
go
say
ahead.
is your favorite Geoff Johns event? By event, I mean like Infinite Crisis, Blackest Night. Sinestro Corps doesn't count because that was within the main title. Forever Evil and Flashpoint.
Flashpoint, easy, and then Forever Evil.
I
Mine
would
is
say for me,
Flashpoint.
Infinite Crisis, because that's one of the things that helped get me.
I have 5. Flashpoint,
You have 5.
Infinite Crisis, because just the way
You're
he
just
works,
listing,
it was fun.
all of his events. You're pretty much doing.
Actually, 3 and Blackest Night. Because
Okay.
Blackest
Great
Night,
answer.
seeing
All right,
all
guys,
of the
I will
characters
see you
with-
later.
Yeah, see you later, Tristan. But seeing the Justice League members like Lex Luthor gets an orange lantern ring, I'm like, oh,
that was
because except for Superman, he nailed who would get those rings.
Scarecrow getting the
Yes!
and the fact that Scarecrow was at a point where he's used his toxin so much he can't feel fear unless Batman is there.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, that works really well. And the only thing that I felt was kind of stupid, and this kind of goes more into Grant Morrison, where they retcon that the Batman that was killed in Final Crisis was actually just a clone, and I'm like, that's such a haphazard way of doing it.
Yeah, but to be fair though, they needed something to make him think he was dead. But
Yeah.
Question: do you have this issue?
No, I don't. Tiny Titans.
No, but look,
Superboy returns.
no.
Oh.
Geoff Johns guest wrote with them.
Oh, cool.
That's why I brought this here. This was 25. And yeah, you had Superboy and you had Bombshell also show up.
Mhm.
And Match.
Awesome. So let me ask you this. What character do you think Geoff Johns writes the best? Me as Superman.
I would say Superman. Batman is all right, but if I had to pick worse, Wonder Woman still.
Worst Wonder Woman? Maybe, because let me put it this way, there are better writers who have done Wonder Woman so much better.
And again, I'm sorry, Infinite Crisis really put a sour on, make it clear he doesn't get Wonder Woman at all. But now, I will just say this, if I had to pick my least favorite thing Geoff Johns ever done, period, writing or whatever, it was how he was responsible for getting rid of Justice League International.
Yeah.
He was, if you've heard people talk about it, it was Geoff who hated the book. He was the one who wanted it canceled.
I will say my favorite line going off of that with Infinite Crisis was when he had Batman go, "Clark, the last time you inspired someone was when you were dead." I love that. That's such a Batman asshole thing to say. I love that.
One other book we didn't mention about was him with Alan Heinberg on that Crisis of Conscience story arc of Justice League.
When was that? I don't think I read that one.
Hold on. Let me find it. I got it here somewhere. I got all my books here. So, here. It was one of the lead-in. It was the bridging of Identity Crisis with Infinite Crisis.
Hey, Snyder Queen, what's up?
But yeah, like, for example, this is when the one-star Firefly awakened before she got killed off in Infinite Crisis. Basically, Despero has shown up. He's causing the League to fight them all off. But this is also a case where we find out why Batman is truly mad at Zatanna. You know why?
Why?
It's less about what he did or what they did to him. It's in part because he's also wondering, and it's also later why he actually doubts Catwoman. He's wondering, did Zatanna ever make Catwoman good?
Oh.
That's the big question he's wondering. He didn't even tell John that. He said, this wasn't about you, was it? This was about her. For a short time, she was part of the original secret society and one of my most aggressive enemies. And then suddenly she became a friend, an ally of sorts. I thought she'd change, but maybe it wasn't her choice.
That is so good. I love that so much.
Yeah, because you realize that you're just like, oh my God, that could be possible.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one more thing I will say, the character that I think Geoff Johns, another character I think Geoff Johns did really well was Hal Jordan, because the way because when you look at what Hal Jordan did pre that Green Lantern run, where he like wiped out the Green Lantern Corps, granted he had sort of a sacrificial moment where he reignited the sun, but the way he also had Hal Jordan directly dealing with the consequences of his time as Parallax. and him earning back the trust of the Green Lanterns.
Oh
like
yeah,
when,
even when he gave him an out, his basically like, no, it was still Hal. Oh, but
Yeah.
actually, I realized, here's who he writes best.
oh yeah,
The Rogue. Prove me otherwise.
I can't prove you
He
otherwise.
writes the Rogues better than anyone, even better than Superman, better than Hal. The Rogues. He redefined the Rogues in a way that no one can ignore. I mean, look at what happened when they did them in New 52. I'm sorry, Francis Manapul did try to make him different, and that wasn't good. That's why you had Jeremy Adams bring him back out any of the characterizations.
I will say once again, Manipul's art was stellar on that.
Oh, it was phenomenal. I love his artwork, and I like what they did with Reverse Flash or Zoom.
Mm-hmm. They give him so many names at this point. I'm like, come on, just make up your mind on an identity.
Yeah. Now, who would you say, not counting Wonder Woman, that Geoff Johns has been poor at writing?
Poor or not my favorite at writing? Probably. That's a good question because there's
Again, not counting Wonder Woman.
Simon Baz.
Simon Baz, yeah, but he created him, so.
No, but what I mean by that is that the potential was there and he didn't do anything with it.
That's true. I would say Billy Batson.
Okay.
Initially, he fixed him up later on when he did the ongoing, but during those backups, no, I hated that little shit.
And actually, Dave the Imposter says John essentially created the modern Hal Jordan. He made an A-list character. Yeah, exactly.
Yep, the fact that Geoff Johns even explained away the gray temples because originally they were treating him as older. So Geoff Johns saying, nah, he wasn't older. It was worry. And he had the Reed Richard hair.
I also love, like, he comes back and he beats Sinestro. Before Sinestro goes away, he goes, it's good to see you again, Jordan.
Oh, that's the other thing I love is he did for Sinestro, he did for Black Adam, but it worked. Because I cannot look at Sinestro in the early days where he was just playing straight up an evil Green Lantern. I can't anymore. When I went over Batman in Darkest Night for my Pro Teachers Noob, I hated how Sinestro was there, where he was just this all, again, just he's ruling Kroger and his planet, just like, yeah, having women around him, feeding him grapes. It's like, no,
that's not the way he is. But yeah, again, I love
that's
where
how he used to be. That's how he used to be.
Yeah, he used to be. What Johns did is he made it so how even though they were enemies, Sinestro always considered Hal Jordan to be a friend. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's really. I like the way he does it because I like the villains that also still consider their adversaries friends. Black Adam. There you go.
Now, here's another question I want to ask you. Who would you say between J.T. Kroll, Sterling Gates, Joshua Williamson, to an extent Jeremy Adams, but who would you say has been the true successor?
Probably Williamson because of how much of an influence.
Gates came close.
But it's just the amount of influence that Williamson has had in the book since actually post. Since
his Flash run.
Yeah, in guiding the DCU. It has to be him at that point.
Yeah, I mean, look how much of the plot points he resolved that Geoff Johns left hanging, especially Zoom and Reverse Flash working together.
Yeah, so
Geoff Johns set it up and no one did anything.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, you know what? It's like it's essentially that scene at the end of Avengers 2 where Thanos goes, "Fine, I'll do it myself."
Yep. Now I would say this though, J.T. Kroll has so much potential, but apparently the Dio did not like him, and he got the short end because you remember his ending for Teen Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Did you read J.T.?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God, that's where Superboy Prime shows up again, and the Titans deal with him, and he made different clones of Connor, sacrificing Match to do it. But one thing I liked talking with J.T. Kroll is he was trying to pair up Connor with Rose, Ravager.
Really?
Why? Because he looked at it this way. Here's what Kroll said. He said, he looked at Cassie and Connor no different than Superman and Diana. In his eyes, not a great match. You would think it would be, but it's not. But he compared Rose, saying she was to Connor like what Lois is to Superman. This type of hardcore, take no, BS type of woman who could help encourage him to be better.
True. Again,
he's not saying she's identical to Lois, but that type of personality.
Okay, I can see that. Now, once again, I grew up in a different era of comics, so that's probably why I have more of a loyalty towards Super Wonder. So more power to you.
No. And I agree with that. And I love Super Wonder. I didn't say I liked that and I would want to see Rose. I mean, Rose is one of my favorite characters. And that was the other thing. What Geoff Johns did to Rose, it's a divisive thing. It opened the door for her. But let's be honest, though, it also tainted what Rose as a character, because people forget how she was beforehand, how she was this perfectly balanced character, and now she's instead always in this always teetering thanks to what Geoff did. But they make it for the better. That's I guess it. Power Girl and Rose are two characters where Geoff Johns, you cannot deny the influence.
Yeah.
But you also have to wonder, did they make him better?
True. That's true.
From what they were beforehand. It's hard to answer that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, honestly.
It's like he redefined them. But but did they need to be redefined, and were they better before he got his hands on them?
Because sometimes when a writer takes over a character, it's like, say, Bendis on Superman. Yeah, you could change like a lot of stuff on Superman, like the identity reveal. But did you really improve the character, or did you just do it for your own conveniences?
He killed off Clark doing that.
Yeah, because really the way I saw it, I saw it as Bendis saying, I don't want to have to write the identity thing, so I'm lazy enough to just say, okay, everyone knows his identity.
Right. Now, I will also say this, though. Funny thing about with Bendis, he handled Superman himself. The character of Superman. Yeah. He understood. I will give him that. The character of Superman, not the stuff around him. When you
not the stories, though.
No, not the stories, but the character. When you compare it to, say, Chuck Austin's Superman, good God, was that a train wreck?
Or John Ridley.
Or John Ridley, yes. But and that's the thing, though, is that you see him, like, you can tell Bendis understands Superman. He has no idea.
And he likes Superman, I can tell.
Yeah, because he was given a choice, Batman or Superman. He took Superman. Everyone was shocked. Yeah, he did not understand the Superman fan. Well, okay, I take it back. He understood it to an extent. To an extent. The House of L story arc was not a bad one when you had the moment of everyone united to fight against the Injustice League.
Yeah. Tevye just doesn't like what he did with the Superman family because he aged up Jon Kent. And to be clear, he could have done it in a better way.
Yes, he could have done. Oh, the way he totally botched Jor-El.
Oh my gosh, yes. With the Oz thing, because they had to
push it. It pushed it, but it would still make some sense.
But when they made it just Jor-El coming back in time, I'm less like, what?
And they ignore the Dr. Manhattan stuff. They completely ignore it.
Well, that's just what Bendis does. He ignores everything he doesn't want to deal with.
And yet he then has it be through him and Rucka, have it be that Lois acknowledges, oh yeah, I'm two Loises combined together.
Almost like, okay. And also my problem with it.
Rucka did an amazing Superman run pre-Infinite Crisis.
Yeah.
But then when he came back, good God, what did he do to Lois? He wrote one of the best Superman issues, period, that Rucka did was when Lois got shot.
Really?
Oh my God, that was phenomenal. Superman, because it's like Superman was too far away. By the time he got there, I'll show you it. Hold on.
Yeah, okay. While Robert gets that out. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Tevye, I agree with you. The whole Jor-El thing made no sense, in particular with the Manhattan. His Lois Lane book, yeah, it was kind of a train wreck. His Lois... Tevye actually makes a good point here. His Lois Lane book was kind of a train wreck.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Rucka's Lois Lane book was a train wreck. But again, that's the weirdest thing. He does get these characters.
Yeah.
That's another case, though, of a writer who put his politics first.
Yeah.
But yeah, here's what happened to Lois. Look.
Oh.
And then what happened afterwards? We end the very next issue, we see Superman. He's flying there. Like in the amount of time it takes to catch a bullet, he's flying there, and he was just too late.
Too slow, yeah.
Yeah, so he flies over there. He's trying to deal with all this. Now you have some of the doctors there. They're trying to help out. And Superman's just pausing. And now you're seeing Perry White is like, Droop, what's going on? And then once he finds out, saying like, Olsen, find out if you can reach Lane on set by sat phone. See if you can confirm this Superman sighting. Because basically Superman, the whole reason why she was shot was to trick Superman to come there to stop a war.
Okay.
Just like if Superman just arriving in this country, the war's gonna stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Which it manipulates things. So it's like, Chief, I can't. Lois got shot. She's in a field hospital somewhere in the South in surgery. I can't find out where. She got shot. I'll go call Clark. But what happens then? It goes right up to the satellite where Martian Manhunter mimicking Clark goes like, Clark Kent speaking. Clark, it's Perry. Hey Perry, what's up? Clark, listen, I just learned that Lois got shot in Umek. You know what Umek stands for? Unnamed Middle Eastern country. Yeah, but it's like, she's in surgery right now. Clark, are you still there? Yeah, I'm still here. I'll call you back, Perry. So yeah, you have John covering for him. And then
Which he's done before.
Which he's done before. And then you have a soldier, it's Flash in disguise coming there to help get him up there.
Of course.
And then once they get their way up there, they're basically saying like, she's out of danger right now. And then then they finally take him up to the satellite for Dr. Midnight to help. And to reinflate the lung, but should heal over time. As for the rest, it's a matter of wait and see. I understand. If you like, I can stay. You've done everything you can. Very well then. I'm sure Batman will find me again if you need me. Would you like some company? Diana's right outside. No, I need to be alone with her for a while. And then I'm right here. I won't leave you.
I love that. That's great.
And it's just like, I'm not married. I don't have a wife, but I know of a friend who did. And he said like he's been there because he has a wife who has brittle bones. So she's fallen down like, so he's had moments like Superman there where he's just right there holding her hand when she's in the hospital bed. And this is still one of my favorite Superman issues. It's just for this moment.
Yeah.
Now she's perfectly fine by the end, but you see what I mean though? He understands Lois. He was willing enough to have Lois go there, be like, I'm going to go there and cover this story, things like that. Also, he introduced another character named Lupe. What was her name? Lupe Leo Encadio. LL.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. There are those writers that you can tell understand the characters, but when they get the opportunity to write just that character, they do stuff that I'm like, this is not the way the characters were.
Yeah, well, that, and also I think it's because of how the world was by the time he was writing it.
True.
When he was writing it back here during this point, yeah, it was during the Bush years and all that, but still it wasn't as over political as it was now. So he probably did, and especially with the media. Whereas then by this point, when he wrote the Lois Lane book, he was writing a Lois. It's where like the media's like, all good media are left wing media, and I'm gonna push my progressive views and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this when Superman meets up with Lupe. She's in the bathtub and everything, but like,
and Clark is probably like, let's look away.
I beg your pardon. For what? For wanting to talk? Don't be stupid. I mean, for barging on you. I don't mind. I might even left if you wanted to join me in here. There's plenty of room. That's very flattering, but no thank you. And I just love it. Like, all the way in the front room. This is an act, right? You're not really this bashful. Come on, Superman. I don't have anything you've never seen before, even if it's better than most. I really can't comment. You've got to be kidding me. If I had X-ray vision, I'd be taking peeks all the time. Wouldn't mind if I had it right now, to tell you the truth. This is nice. Is it an original? Ha! All right. No more innuendos.
I love that. That's exactly what Clark would be in that situation.
Yeah, he would be, but he'd still keep a smile like, really?
Oh, and this. Also, Bendis having Superman allowing Jon Kent to go with Mr. Oz, Jor-El, and having Lois and her son.
Oh, and then what happened when Lois got back? She didn't come see him. She decided to stay away.
Yeah, I'm like, what? And Clark just stands there like a moron as the character that's already been established to be a villain says, I want to take your son on a little adventure with me. What?
That's why I loved when Tomasi actually had to be Lois having those moments where it sometimes dawns on her, I lost so many years of my son's life. Again, Bendis, the way some of the ideas could have worked. Maybe why did John have a porn stash?
Yeah.
What was up? Like, don't go look at my room. In fact, okay, never mind. Drawers taking care of it. It's like, he's 10. Why?
Yeah.
He's not 13 like Damien. He's 10.
He's 10. Yeah, exactly. And also, like I said, the story moves the characters instead of the characters moving the story.
That's what he said. This is what he was saying about Geoff Johns, though, as well.
Mm-hmm.
He said, no. Yeah, that's what he said. He feels that's how, I know Pika Shade said about Geoff. Geoff is known for doing that, where, yes, he does have the stories move the characters more than the other way around. That is a downside for him, I will give him.
Yeah, but the chief of the other point that I want to conclude with that I love about Geoff Johns is that he's good at updating characters for the modern audience, because for the most part, because let me put it this way, there are certain times when, like, I think things don't translate well, like Superman carrying a chain of like solar system planets, or a lot of the Christopher Reeves movie. I think would do better if it were updated a little more for the modern day. But my point is, when you have Geoff Johns, it's like, take Green Lantern. He took the yellow thing and made it. No, it's not just the color yellow.
It's fear.
It's fear. It's the fear entity in there. So I'm like, thank you.
If there's green and yellow, what about the other colors?
Yeah, and then he's like, okay.
And what about black? What about white?
But my only problem with black and white is death and life aren't emotions. It's called the emotional spectrum.
True, but I think, but all those emotions do make life.
That's true. But my other thing is, I'm surprised no one thought of it before Geoff Johns to add other Lantern Corps.
Now, I will just say this about Geoff Johns. If he's going to kill off a character, and he has many of times, but if he's going to kill off a character and replace them, he makes sure that character at least either goes out swinging or their death starts the story. Look at Sandman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, he did that right off the bat. His death kickstarted the story.
Yeah, and whenever he kills off a character, he gives them a loving send-off for the most part.
Not all of them. Look, unfortunately, a bunch of Teen Titans would argue that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Panza.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to.
And Tevi has a good point. I also respect Geoff Johns giving legacy characters a chance in the spotlight. Yeah, exactly. Jessica Cruz.
Again, Simon's the only flaw. Why I don't get why I hate to bring him up so much, but he is the big fumble.
Yeah, he really is, because, well, was it really him or was it DC editorial? Because at that point,
it was him, because he did talk about how he was proud of that character and all that. But then it's like I said at the start of this all stream. The one downside with Geoff Johns is he has so many ideas he comes up with, and he starts them, but he never finishes them. Cowgirl from with Hal Jordan. Introduced them, did a little bit of her with and with the Star Sapphire. Never saw her again. Took Grant Morrison to reference her again before we found out whatever happened to her. And yet they were setting stuff up there, but never went anywhere. Or the fact that you have Geoff Johns set up the stuff with Hal and his former commander. We never saw that guy again after that first arc.
I know.
Like, he sets these things up, but he does nothing with them. And unfortunately, that's the problem, because he has so many other stuff he wants to focus on that he never gets to.
And the thing is, it's not like they're all bad ideas. A lot of them are really great ideas. It's just we want to see more of this. Like, Simon Baz is a great idea for a character. Granted, his origin was a little too stereotypical about him being confused being a terrorist.
And it was tied in too much to what was going on with Hal and Sinestro. That was the biggest problem with that. It was tied in way too much to him leading up to Rise of the Third Army and then the Wrath of the First Lantern.
But what I did say, I do like how in Rebirth, it was a different writer, how they wrote Baz and Jessica being partners and how merging their lanterns together and saying, you have to be with each other in order to charge your rings. You have to work together.
Oh, yeah, that was perfectly good. But again, everything else with Simon, though, making him a Gary Stu.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having him fight and kind of defeat the Justice League. Better.
I will say Jeffrey Thorne's idea had potential. At the end of his, he had it be that somehow Simon was connected to all of the dead lantern spirits that became constructs of their own.
Oh, that's cool.
That would have been potential. But now apparently they're reversing all that.
It's kind of like what Larfleeze does with the Orange Lanterns, how the construct...
Where has Larfleeze been? We haven't seen him since his title ended.
Here's the problem. What Grant Morrison did is that he completely ignored everything Geoff did.
Which I understand, because he wanted to tell his own story. But it's not like he removed everything. But even then, Venditti didn't do anything with Larfleeze.
Yeah, but I'm like, they have. Remember in the New 52 when they had a Red Lantern book,
Yep,
which by the way was great.
it was great. Oh, Peter Milligan's first run, and then once who took over afterwards?
I forget. Her.
Oh,
But it's
Charles Soule. Charles Soule.
Yeah, it's like Atrocitus deciding I need someone that can help me control it, so he gives
But then
Bleed
when
Black.
Guy took over, when Guy took over,
Yes, when Guy and Supergirl became,
and Supergirl.
I'm like, okay, that's great because to quote Comic Historian, when they made Supergirl a Red Lantern, it was doing something unique with her instead of her being like Superman with boobs, pretty much.
Or a teenager with angst with the S on her chest.
Yeah.
It felt like the only people who got Superman was Sterling Gates for the longest time. Even when Jeff Lowe brought her in, that first arc was okay, but then you ended with that whole stupid Cain and Abel stuff between Jor-El and his brother. It's like, what?
Yeah, but I'm like,
that's why I say Sterling Gates was also a great guy. But what's happened to him since then? What has he been doing since?
Yeah, but what I love also is that when Atrocitus gives Bleed Black her intelligence and they go and like murder everyone that was involved in what happened with Bleed, I'm like, oh, this is great.
But let's be honest, I do agree with Tristen. Bleed's origin was,
I mean,
not good.
He gave her a reason to hate the Sinestro Corps, so I'm like,
but now one of Geoff Johns' best creations. Dexter,
the Red Lantern cat. I'm like, yeah,
that was one of the best origins.
Like, for a Red Lantern, a rage you give a cat. That's so cool.
Yep, but then I don't like it how he basically then became Atrocitus' pet, and then be all like, "Oh, like, I'm trying to help you." Like, "Bad cow, come back, cow." Saying, remember when I'm like, I didn't care for that. And when Ed Benes, why did Ed Benes give Dexter a 6-pack?
Wait, he gave a cat a 6-pack?
Yeah. Hold on. I'll find that. Hold on.
Also, actually, Tevye brings up a good point. Here's another character that was introduced in Geoff Johns' books, but they never did anything with. Pandora.
And then they killed her off.
Yeah, with Dr. Manhattan. I'm like, you had the potential there. And she showed up in quite a few books in the New 52. And she got like attention in like Trinity War, but they didn't do anything else with her. Yeah. Oh wow.
See what I mean?
Oh wow. Yeah. Was he a jacked cat? No.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with that. I mean, I get it. It's not a full-on 6-pack, but you can still see his abs. It's like.
But I look this way. Ordinarily, I love his art, but well, of course. Yeah, too many characters are like shredded with 6-packs.
I know, when you give it to a cat.
When you give it to a cat, that's a bit much.
That is way more than a bit much. But also, War of the Green Lanterns was a great story arc.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh. And where Hal just hands everyone their own rings and goes, okay, so you're gonna be this, you're gonna be this, and then Ganthet goes, no, you would be way more, way better as this core. And then it ends. But I will say, I love the way Geoff Johns ended the Green Lantern like run with that one lantern hearing the story of Hal Jordan, and then it all ties together to that first moment. I'm like, that is fantastic. The way it all goes together. Yes.
Remember that of him ending out where Sinestro got the ring and they're like, wait, what?
Yeah, he's like, wait, what happened? But anyway, I just love how it ties back to that one moment, and then Geoff Johns is basically saying everything that happened with Green Lanterns, with all the War of Light and stuff, happened because Hal Jordan got that ring.
Yep. Now, I will also say this, though. There's one downside with War of the Green Lanterns is it completely ignores everything Kurt Busiek was doing with Krona.
Mm-hmm.
Completely ignores everything. He was setting up something big with that, acted like it never happened. Everything in Trinity, in JLA Avengers.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of writers are. Once they get to a certain
and Geoff Johns is better than that, though. But when the fact that Krona shows up and he's smaller and no reference to anything.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, My big question was, okay, so Chrono's a guardian. How did he get small?
No. He went through. No, they did explain that.
Oh, they did?
He went through the process that would make them the smaller guardians.
Oh, okay.
Remember, they originally showed they were all like Krona.
Yeah.
Krona never went through the same process.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, he did, and that's where he gained more power.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I mean, the stuff was like Hector Hammond. I wish they did more with him.
Yeah, that was
one thing I would get
more.
Morrison. Morrison at least did something with Hector Hammond by the end of his Green Lantern.
I would say what was kind of cool, what Geoff did with Hector Hammond in his run was he established that, like, when Hector Hammond was fantasizing that he became the hero, and then Hal was the big dude with the big head, and that Carol Ferris fell in love with him. I'm like, okay, that's actually pretty cool. I like that.
Yep. Oh, with Blackest Night.
Yes.
Adam and Hawkman.
My favorite tie-in for Blackest Night is the Superboy Prime one, where Superboy goes to the DC offices.
Yes,
and like hangs out with and like almost kills Sandy.
But they implied pretty much, and it gets confirmed at the end that he killed his friend.
He killed his girlfriend. Yeah, Lori, kind of.
I'm like, what? How did he kill her?
They kind of teased it throughout the entire issue, like his mom going, after what you did to Lori. But I'm like, what did he do to Lori? And you see her with like a Black Lantern ring, and I'm like, oh.
Like, how did he do it? He has no power. Did he knock her down the stairs?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, did he strangle her? How did he do that? It must have been some way for his parents to be afraid of him.
Yeah. But it's like, that's where it kind of lost me. That's why I feel Geoff Johns went a little too mean-spirited with him. I mean, I do not blame him for what happened with Superboy Prime in Countdown. But let's be honest, he did not treat Superboy Prime as being redeemable. Scott Snyder did, though.
Yes.
Scott Snyder did during Death Metal.
Dude.
Because I love how Scott Snyder basically made clear, he was right! Superboy Prime was right! They were going too far!
Yeah, even and Wonder Woman says so when she's captured by Superboy Prime. And I just love he ends up on his own Earth, and then he gets his own powers, and they homage Action Comics #1.
Yeah, I love it though. Whereas the first time when he went back to his own Earth after Legion of Three Worlds, it was a prison. He was being condemned for what he did. But at the end of Death Knight's Metal, he earned his happy ending.
He's being rewarded, essentially.
He's being rewarded because he didn't care that no one, even the villains, all the heroes and villains, thought like, ugh. And even thought, oh, he ran off. Fine, let him go.
Mm-hmm. But I will say, what was really funny, one of my favorite times.
I'll kill you to death.
One of my favorite One of my favorite parts of the tie-ins for Blackest Night is when he goes into the comic book shop and they go, "Hey, you know you look like Superboy Prime? He's hilarious." And then he goes, "You might want to go on the internet and look up spoilers." I'm like, "Oh, geez."
But yeah, like I said, there were some points where I think Geoff Johns did go a little too mean-spirited.
A little bit. I do agree with you. Like he's in his mom's basement and stuff. And
yeah,
I'm like,
she's making a grilled cheese sandwich. I'm like,
and the parents bring him food and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I get what you're going for.
And he's like, I'm going to change everything by going online.
It's like, I like the meta of him reading the comic book that he's in right now, but the rest of it, I'm like, I get what you're doing. It's not the best.
Exactly. That's why, again, that's why I feel Scott Snyder looked at it and thought like, yeah, Geoff wasn't wrong entirely, was what Prime was saying. They do represent some of it, but not all those fans are wrong either. That's why I love that Scott made the point of. Not all those fans are wrong. They might be in what they're saying. They may be wrong in how they're saying it, like Prime is. It doesn't mean that they're wrong.
Yeah, and that's a lot of people on the internet. A lot of them are saying the right stuff. It's just the way they're expressing it and the way they're
being too hostile, or they're like Comicsgate when it started. When it started, they were actually making good points, but then you have people who felt like we got to tag in these creators and be assholes to them and be hostile to them. Like, no one's going to listen to you once you do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like there's a way to give respectful criticism. Now, granted, a lot of writers, though.
Okay, a lot of writers don't want respectful criticism. They just want praise.
Yeah, they'll say, okay, they'll essentially say, then don't buy my book, or you're not a real fan if you don't like what I'm doing. And that's the other side of the spectrum. We have to have a little middle ground, because ultimately,
that was the whole point of Prime and Death Metal.
Yeah.
We need the middle ground.
Yeah, because ultimately, here's the thing, though. We're talking about fictional characters that don't exist. So ultimately, why are we getting so heated up about this stuff?
Okay, well, we're gonna have to start wrapping up. I gotta get going because I got premiere going on right now. Me and Nerdy Girl Creates going over the Wednesday.
All right, have fun, and it was a pleasure having you and Nerdette on.
Yep. Hey, have me on again if you ever want to talk more Geoff Johns or any type of comics. And hey, if you ever want to do a Pro Teachers Noob, my door's open.
Absolutely. So everyone, stay heroic, and I will see you in the next Under Two Capes. Stay heroic. Bye bye.